Hello again, friends! And you are our friends. And welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru, another happy edition here on another happy day. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. Fun, positive wrestling talk with me and this man, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
If it makes you happy, then why are you so sad?
I'm fairly certain the entire audience can agree that Sheryl Crow is not a good mix. Her catalog is not good for you.
Well, no, she's a fine artist.
She's
Don't
a great...
be slagging off on Sheryl Crow.
An extremely talented artist, an extremely talented songwriter. Her material doesn't work for you. For your range, for your whole feel.
You think it's because of my character? It doesn't work with my character. It doesn't work for me, bro.
It's your
brother.
key. You could do maybe like a Stevie Nicks kind of thing. I don't know about Sheryl Crow.
Well, but on the edge of 17, ooh. Yeah, that's more like it.
I think we just cut into our key demo and they're gone. Maybe never to return.
Maybe the next stop for me is AEW television, where I can have a good audition and a record company will sign me up, because that's the place now you go to audition for good jobs, right? They'll just let you on television. Yeah, go out and juggle those plates and keep the thing spinning on top of the deal, and you'll be on a big-time variety show on network next week.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about it the other day. Just what is a celebrity nowadays? It used to be as simple as if you were on TV, they would tell you like the next day you couldn't go anywhere. People would recognize you and see you, and that was it for the rest of your life. In the Matthew Perry from Friends biography, or autobiography, memoir, he wrote that the producers told the entire cast the night before the show debuted, go out and have a great time, because you're never going to do this ever again. Ever. And you realize today, it may not be the person on TV as much as the person on the phone, the person on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. That's kind of the new celebrity that can go out and get recognized more than the TV star.
But conversely, will it last the rest of their life? Or in about 6 weeks, is anybody going to recognize any of these dumb shits?
See, that's the question. When you had a network TV, when you had a network behind you and a network TV show, your star and your celebrity could last well into the future, because it wasn't just you and your organization pushing you. It was an entire conglomerate stealing your money and pushing the content.
Yes. See, you were being conglomerated on.
But when it's just you and you have to have a team, that's a lot of work for a long-term future, unless you're going to try to just cash out early.
The thing is that they were creating shit that multiple millions of people wanted to watch. And then because it was on Kinescope or then videotape or whatever, they were reruns over and over. And, we can thank Lucy and Desi for figuring that out early, so that a lot of this stuff. So you were saying, is any of this internet shit? Did they do internet reruns on TikTok? Oh, look what was hot 2 years ago. Where it's in syndication now.
Well, things can get hot again, but again, that's a different model. You're just producing content, putting it out there. It's very of the moment. How much of it's really going to last? And what I was going to say before, that Huck to a girl who's now a big celebrity and apparently has an agent. And
did we get her number yet?
We did not get her number. We'll see if Tony gets her in Nashville for the big AEW show. But she's been doing all sorts of appearances and interviews now. Apparently, the guys that filmed the interview with her are now upset because they're not getting attention. There was some article, they're upset that no one's focusing on them. Everyone's focusing on the girl they interviewed. They get to keep the money from whatever video they did, but she's now got all the fame that they wanted.
Well, let them draw back a loogie and spit on a good big throbbing dick. And then they'll get some notoriety too.
She didn't do it. She just spoke of it. There was no actual...
Well, it sounded to me like she had plenty of fucking practice.
And phlegm.
And phlegm.
And saliva. Maybe not phlegm. Saliva.
Well... when you're going... You can't really differentiate between the two unless you've got a test tube, and nevertheless, where were we going with this before we started spitting up? Well, these fucking camera people.
Modern celebrity. And
They need to know. They need to know their role and shut their mouth, though. They're out there covering the news. Walter Cronkite didn't think he was as big of a star as Menachem Begin, did he?
probably when he went to the restaurant, he wanted a table, he did.
Well, that's true, but also it depends on what country you're in.
That's right. One of my favorite. I love the name Menachem. Great name.
Menachem, you can't knock him.
Can't knock him. He's Menachem.
The people named Menachem.
You know what else you can't knock?
What's that?
Cornette's Collectibles.
Well, son of a gun. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. You can't knock them, but you can buy them. And folks, I'm telling you what right now, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Just because I love you, just because I want to keep your business, I'm going to let you people go to jimcornette.com right now and order anything you want in the collectibles section. And I'm only going to charge you retail price. And you're only going to pay normal shipping. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this. But while it lasts, get not only the Midnight Express tag team action figure sets, but also the Jim Cornette action figures, the Cornette face t-shirts, the DVDs, the books, the Cult of Cornette membership certificates, and so much more right now on sale for only retail price plus regular shipping at jimcornette.com.
Well, there you go. Now's a good time. It's summertime. You need your action figures. Get the Midnight Express.
You can play with them in the pool.
That's right. And because you'll have two different tag team sets, you'll have Bobby and Bizarro Bobby.
Well, you could have Bob and Bobby and Duncan Dennis.
Did anyone ever
Swim and Stan?
Did anyone ever call him Bob?
Well, yeah, all the time. Well, I mean, we did. Hey, Bob, what are you doing? That type of thing. But nobody actually like, hello, Bob Eaton. Nice to meet you. Well, you know.
What did you think when he became Earl Robert?
Oh, God. I was watching as much as I could at that point. We were otherwise occupied, but I always tried to watch what Bobby was doing. And I loved Regal at that point also. Well, I'm not saying like I don't love him now, like I loved him at that point, but later I learned to hate him. No, I'm just saying I was a fan of his when he first came to the country. So it was also knowing Bobby. I think that was why they came up with the gimmick, knowing that as far as background, not wrestling philosophy and not being just nice guys, but as far as background and upbringing and geographic location in the world and vocabulary, Regal and Bobby were about as far apart as two people could be. So Earl Robert Eaton was, I'm sure, at some level to entertain the people in the office.
When Regal first came to WCW, I forget if it was the end of 92, I think it was the beginning of 93, he was a babyface, and he was as bland as you could be. It just wasn't working. I was like, why would they sign this guy? And then as soon as they put him with Dundee, and as soon as they made him the aristocratic Lord Steven Regal, and he started with his facial expressions, it was
the shit-sniffing look.
Immediately, it was like a different guy. And he was such a, it's not that he was a better worker, but he was so, it suited him better to be a heel than a babyface in the ring.
Yes. Well, and because he was also able to draw on the world of sport, the British style heel, a lot of different stuff that hadn't been seen here on a national basis and only regionally with, the Adrian Streets and people that might have worked the territories. So, that fit, he was able to bring that out also. And that's what, he was different at that point. So people could hang their hat on it, as JR used to say.
The most underrated period is right, well, I shouldn't even say that because I think a lot of fans really love it. Right before Hogan got there in 94, when all of a sudden you had Regal feuding with Zbyszko, and you had Flair feuding with Steamboat, and you had Mick Foley as Cactus Jack, obviously, and either Max Payne or Kevin Sullivan with the Nasty Boys. There was like 2 pay-per-views in a row, Spring Stampede and Slamboree, that were amazing, and then Hogan signed and everything changed for a while. But that's the William Regal story, Steven Regal, but we're going to get now to the body of the show.
The body
We have
You mean it's dead already? I thought at least it was on life support this early in the program.
We have a few reviews, but we're going to try to get to some other stuff here too. Let me just ask you, are we going to do it on the Experience, the WrestleMania XL Behind the Curtain?
Yes, we are on the Experience. According to my to-do list of things for the weekend, that is what is planned on my schedule, sir.
All right, I suggest a barf bag if you're going to be sitting there and watching.
I've been very busy the past couple of days. I won't bore the people with my busyness, but I'm trying to catch up on this thing. But I've heard that yes, that there is some. I'm going to expose the business here. I don't see how I'm going to like the concept of a bunch of people sitting down and talking about how they constructed, whether it's true or not. How they constructed all this to put on a show for the folks. And I don't know.
They should make a documentary about how they constructed the documentary.
Well, that might be more interesting, trying to figure out how that they rewrote the history based on the footage that was at hand. But I can't see Bill Watts drawing 20,000 people to the Superdome, and the following week on TV, he tells everybody how he figured out how to book it. But we'll see.
Jim, let's start today with a story that everyone's been talking about. It's kind of fascinating. Stephanie Vaquer, if I am pronouncing her name correctly.
I think it's Vaquer.
Well, she just appeared on the AEW Forbidden Door pay-per-view.
Put an L in instead of the V, and it would be lacquer, right? Like the varnish.
Lacquer.
No, that's like a liqueur. That's a.
She's from
put
Chile.
The Q in a different place.
She's from Chile. It's a different pronunciation in Chile than it is here. Chile.
And then you
say
mean
Chile.
To tell me Chile.
You see?
Chile.
You see, that's the difference between Vaquer and Vaquer. Well,
what?
We may need some liquor to get through this show, but Jim...
Yeah, so the point is, what about Stephanie Vaquer now?
Well, she just appeared on Forbidden Door, had that match with Mercedes Monae. To a lot of people, she was the more impressive of the two in the ring. She was on AEW TV.
Everybody in the building was cheering for her.
She was on AEW TV for several weeks leading up to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. She is a CMLL, I believe she was a title holder there, and wrestled as part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL, AEW's love triangle, whatever
the alphabet soup. She carried a couple of belts out with her. I think maybe had a wheelbarrow with some more of them.
Well, within a few hours and a day or two, everything kind of broke. We have here an announcement from CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you for supporting Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre, CMLL, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW. I know I pronounced that correctly. Citing personal reasons, Stephanie Vaquer has elected to depart from the CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling rosters effective immediately. As a result, Vaquer will not compete in her scheduled match against Luvia at Fantastica Mania.
Who? What?
Luvia. Luvia.
Oh, boy.
Or it could be... Well, I'm not even going to try. At Fantastica Mania, July 13th in San Jose.
Would that be like the Spanish version of like llama? That's the only other word I can think of that begins with two L's. Is she the masked llama?
I don't know. We will, I'm sure, find out. Furthermore, CMLL hereby announces Vaquer is stripped of both the CMLL World Women's and World Women's Tag Team Championships. She held two of their top titles there.
Jesus Christ.
This Saturday at Fantastica Mania USA, a new CMLL World Champion, Women's World Champion, will be crowned in a three-way match featuring Luvia from CMLL, Viva Van, or Viva Van, whatever, I'm not sure, from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Willow Nightingale from AEW. We remain committed to ensuring the highest quality wrestling for our fans at Fantastica Mania USA this Saturday and at all future events. Shortly after this, I believe Shawn Michaels put up a tweet welcoming her to WWE and NXT. She put up a tweet. Let me go to this. At this moment, I stop belonging to the ranks of CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. clarify, I am leaving through the big door.
What?
This is a translation. Forever grateful to the World Wrestling Council.
Who translated it? Howie the mailroom guy?
And New Japan Pro Wrestling. And in the best terms, from today, I vacate the CMLL World Women's Championship as well as the World Women's Couples Championship, for which I offer an apology to the fans. For obvious reasons, I will not be present at the next shows, and I hope you can understand that the terms between companies are what led to this statement. With Mexico in my heart...
No, we don't really understand, do we, Brian?
With Mexico in my heart, and with the commitment to represent Mexican wrestling wherever I go, infinite thanks to Senor Salvador Luderoff for his good wishes. It's so funny, there's another Salvador Luderoff.
I was about how old would he be now? 120?
And he also said that Jerry Lawler is Mexico's Wrestler of the Year. No, and also thank you for the unconditional support of my people and my colleagues. Thank you. Let's get away from the translated stuff for a little while. Stephanie Vaquer apparently surprised CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. AEW apparently made an offer for her. WWE in the past, she was not, I don't know how you put it, she was not taken in after a tryout.
She was like the rest of them were taken in.
But maybe they've had her. But maybe they've had her eye on her. The timing of this means they either signed her within 2 weeks after Forbidden Door, or they were talking to her before Forbidden Door. She did all that stuff on that TV show and then immediately signed. But this is reminiscent of WCW. Remember when WCW in like 90, 91 would put people on TV and then Vince would just take them because they weren't signed. They were just putting anyone on TV. The Nasty Boys jumped right after their big high-profile program with the Steiners.
Yeah, well, backing up a second, a lot of times in those days, in the early 90s, they didn't want to commit to, they had a certain set amount they were going to spend on talent because everybody was just making their guarantee, no more. And they would just bring guys in for, oh, he's got a deal in Japan. Well, let's bring him in for some TV shots or whatever. And that's how Vader was there for a few appearances 1 year and then came in the next. He wasn't going to go to the WWF at that point because his Japan thing was too lucrative. But nevertheless, back to modern day. Here's the thing is, and this, maybe the new ownership is changing all of the procedures they've gone through, but obviously I've talked to guys over the last, on and off the last 15 or 20 years going through the process, even after I was not involved in their developmental anymore. And they have to go for the medical exams, and they have to check them out for this, and then blood work and background checks. And so if they are not doing that anymore, they're like, hey, you know, we'll sign you up now and find out later on that you were on some type of list somewhere or whatever. They've had to have been talking for a while because they wouldn't announce it unless later on she either flunks the blood test because they find out that her septum is leaking through her brain or whatever, or, you know, she's on an international watch list of some kind. And then they, oh, sorry, never mind. So I would have to think they've been talking for more than 2 fucking weeks. Doesn't that make sense?
It does. You would think so. Otherwise, it says a lot that this happened that quickly and that she used Forbidden Door as a showcase. Typically, it's been a showcase of international talent for Tony to sign. In this case, she used it to get a bigger deal, technically in the long run, because even if Tony was offering her more money, if she becomes a top women's wrestler in WWE, it's a different world altogether. But she just wrestled the other night, apparently, in Guadalajara, her final match for CMLL. She beat Tessa Blanchard. They embraced. She kind of got a little emotional, it seems like, you know, she's the only one who knew it was her last match there.
Yeah.
But she left. What does that bother you at all? Her leaving with 2 titles. She left beating Tessa Blanchard, so beating, I would assume, one of the top foreign stars among the women wrestlers in Mexico, right?
Well, but here is something else that we all need to find out more about, because if she was on good terms with this company in Mexico, even if the WWE called her up and said the AEW thing hadn't happened, wasn't going on, whatever, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether it was or wasn't. If the WWE calls her and says, hey, you want a job? And she says, yeah, I do. I'm working here in Mexico. I got these 2 belts. Pretty much, they would usually say, drop them, finish up. We'll fly you up here and do this fucking testing, whatever. It's not like stealing her away from the company without her losing these belts means anything to the WWE. It wouldn't have meant anything to Vince. It doesn't mean anything to the new owners. It almost has to be, she told them, I want the fuck out of here. I don't want to deal with these people anymore. I don't want to work for them ever again. I mean, what else could that be? I can't believe that they would, in Stamford, they would say to this young lady, it's not like they're stealing the AEW World Champion. Don't finish any dates. Don't ever work for these people again. Don't drop the belts.
That's what Vince would do.
But not for somebody like in another country.
That's what he did to Junkyard Dog, right? I mean, just, again, a different example, but that's what Junkyard Dog did. He left without notice, without jobs, without anything.
Well, no, that's good. I'm talking about this is another country, and she ain't a Junkyard Dog to the American audience right now. She had one match on a pay-per-view that was seen by 100,000 people, whatever the fuck.
And by the way, you say that and you're right. This may be the biggest shot WWE's taken at CMLL ever, right? Was Mystico left and became Sin Cara on his own. But this is she was 2 champions there. This is a pretty big hit.
Well, now, the WWE, have they recently, or are they about to run a house show in Mexico?
I believe.
I read this.
Yeah, I believe they are going to do something. You got to know she's going to be there. That's where you should debut her and have her make her first appearance.
Well, we don't know it yet, but when it happens, whether she is or isn't, might tell us something. Because did they sign her not with the theory that, we got this girl away from AEW, but we got this girl away with a couple of belts from CMLL, and we're about to run Mexico more often? Is that a strategy? What I'm saying is that I can't believe that one of the reasons why that Stephanie was so popular with the fans at Forbidden Door was because they just dislike Mercedes Moon so bad and in an annoying way. Right? So one match they wouldn't drop everything and say, fuck testing, fuck background check, sign this girl now, unless there had been contact going on, or unless they thought, Mexico, there's a market that she could be important in, or something other than, we got to get this girl away from AEW when she wasn't even signed to AEW. It helped me connect other dots that...
Well, the other thing is, I think a lot of people forget, because the advent of AEW, one of the things it was kind of a shot at WWE, even if not by Tony Khan and AEW itself, the fans. It was, we've had enough of WWE and Vince McMahon, we have this now. People forget that you would have to imagine the majority of people who become professional wrestlers and get into the business, in this day and age, their dream is to make it to the top of WWE. Because that's where you'd make the most money, that's where you'd have the most exposure, and quite frankly, that's what you've been watching on TV since you were a kid. So, despite management, whatever is there, typically that's the goal of most wrestlers. It's not, I really want to be good at what I do and find a billionaire that's going to pay me lots of money, even though I won't necessarily mean anything to the business. Everyone wants to mean something to the business. If you make it in WWE, it's like making it in New York, so to speak. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Dun, 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 dun.
If you make it in AEW, you can make it in Reseda. I mean, it's not the same thing at all. And I think that's one of the things you see with a thing like this, because Tony could offer her more money, and Tony needs wrestlers like that for his women's division if he's going to do it. But she wanted to go to WWE. And If you're going to do it, you got to do it. Look at Okada. That's the opposite. Okada's the example of someone that WWE would have wanted, and he thought this was the better idea. He's going to get all this money. What's this going to do to his legacy? Someone like Stephanie Vaquer, it appears she's trying to actually make a legacy.
Well, and the legacy will be legendary as long as it includes llamas. Or Lydia. What was her name?
It wasn't Lydia. I
Lydia, oh, Lydia. Oh, have you seen Lydia?
That was
Lydia, the tattooed lady. Luvia.
What does that mean? Hold on, let me look it up. Luvia.
I think I may have a gardener that has showed up, by the way.
Oh, good. I thought that was my sign. For once, it's you, and you're calling it first. Luvia translates to rain.
So, her name is Rain.
Rain.
Well, she'll be right sooner or later. All right. But nevertheless, I think with Stephanie.
Apparently, I'm pronouncing it wrong. This is the pronunciation.
Uvia.
Well, no, that's uvula.
No, the uvia.
Uvula, that's that thing that dangles down in your throat, your uvula. And also, you can get diseases. You need to care. It would behoove you to care for your uvula.
I will say some of the names in Lucha Libre, you're always like, what? Some of them you get like El Psychedelico. Okay, you know. Winners. What? His name is Winners? But we'll see what happens.
Well, what does that mean in Spanish?
Winners? Hold on. Let me put this in Spanish. Winners translates to winners in English.
We stole their word. See, if it weren't for the Spanish people and the Spanish-speaking people, there would be no winners in America. So take that, you anti-immigrant people.
Well, there it is, and we'll stay on top of this. But Stephanie Vaquer going to WWE or going to NXT, and that'll be an interesting thing there.
And I just also, I'm just going to say this one more time. I can't believe that there wasn't some type of ongoing contact before 2 weeks ago that led to, or not even 2 weeks ago, now that I'm looking at the calendar, that led to this announcement.
How does no one have her under contract? That's the other thing. And if you were a wrestler and you were about to appear on AEW's pay-per-view and you had no contract, would you call WWE and say you're about to do that?
Most of them, no, I don't think the WWE would take their fucking calls. Tony's trying to bring in all these foreign wrestlers to fit his concept, even though he's already signed up most of the foreign wrestlers that fit the concept. So at some point, he can't sign everyone in the world. If he keeps doing that, he's going to use more people that end up getting signed elsewhere. And probably the only reason it hadn't happened so far is because he's so lousy at picking the foreign talent.
Well, on that note, I will say that Tony Khan has announced that Tomohiro Ishii will be with AEW for the rest of the summer.
Oh, good Lord. Ishii.
Well, Jim, let's take another fun ride. And I'm assuming that you probably paid closer attention than I did, but we'll find out because I don't remember exactly what I saw. WWE Raw this past week. Another week from another locale, another packed house. Where were they?
Well, let me talk to you. Because I'll tell you exactly where they were. They were in the Frenchiest part of Ontario. As I recall, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, is farther up toward Montreal than Toronto is. Or the other Ontario towns that people in America may be familiar with. The Hamiltons and the Burlingtons and the Furnhamtons and all those other tons. So I remember going there a time or two with the WWF, and they're leaning toward the French area up there. You get a lot more French people. But guess who we got on first after the Money in the Bank recap on this fine episode of Monday Night Raw? Like Mussolini in Ottawa.
Oh, come on.
So I tried to give it a little extra, because I want to do
no effort at all. No.
Enunciate there.
Horrible.
But here comes Punk, and have you noticed, did this pop out at you of the screen? he's 25 pounds heavier, 4 shades darker in terms of the suntan, and looks 10 years younger than he did in AEW. It's like as Rodney would say, Hot Rod, it's like a heaviness has been lifted off of his shoulders. And you can see why I'm loving this. Like you said the other day about Punk and Drew, they don't even have to wrestle. This is great shit. Now we got Seth in it. And Seth was fucking interesting too, instead of being Seth Franklin. And I can't possibly encapsulate what they said in the promo. Basically, Punk came out and congratulated Cena on his retirement. I'd love to lace him up one more time with you. And then he said, I'm here, but Drew McIntyre's not here. And did you hear when he said, I talked to Gary and Pismo in the truck, and they agreed to play this tape. And he played the VTR of Drew McIntyre that you referred to on the drive-thru. I hadn't seen it yet, or no, not on the drive-thru, on the Experience. We reviewed this show, but I hadn't seen that yet. But Drew comes out at the Money in the Bank post-show extravaganza, and he's pitching a fit, and they're trying to get him to back up, and he shoved a referee, and he elbows Pierce in the fucking face. And Wade Barrett is in there. They're shoving and pulling apart. And let's stop down there for a second. I love that shit because it looked like actual goddamn adults at a UFC fucking pull apart, instead of all the fake wrestlers that do the fake wrestling stuff that the modern kids do these days. Did you notice the little subtle differences?
Oh, I thought it was great. I don't know if I want to compare it to the UFC anymore. I don't really watch that.
Well, but I mean, when where they're still trying to take it as seriously as possible without doing cliche shit.
It was like if some real shit happened on a real post-game show. That's what it was. And I thought McIntyre, when he gets mad, he's looking right at the camera and he's steaming. You believe him. And Pierce's reaction, because that's an interesting thing. Here's the authority figure getting hit, and they got to do something with it. It wasn't too much, and it was kind of just right, and Wade Barrett got involved. This was incredibly well done.
And, and that's the thing, is that everybody is being serious and adult about this, and I think that's part of the thing that's making it. But then they go back to Punk in the ring, and he did the promo. There are consequences to your actions, and you're looking at him. And he laid the whole thing out. And they were both fine, but Drew was suspended also, and he was here to ask Jack Tunney or Adam Pearce or whoever he's got to talk to, please unsuspend Drew McIntyre so I can get my hands on him. And did you hear the line? I'll beat him up in the cheap seats. There's people on the other side of this camera. I'll beat him up there.
Yeah.
He drops it, but it's not a gotcha line where he's expecting a pop. It's part of the fucking overall story. And, so anyways, he laid that out perfectly. And he has a case. He is making sense. This is why that he is doing this to Drew. This is his reasonings. And it's perfect, right? He's the baby face. And then here comes Seth Franklin Rollins' music. And this time, while he's making his entrance and the fans are singing, and oh, he sits cross-legged on the fucking announce desk and takes the color headset and just said, we're going to be here a while. This takes so long, the singing and etc. And it's, again, it's what you would do, right? If you were, real. And then Seth does his promo face to face with Punk. And he has a goddamn reason, right? And Punk even says, hey, I got no quarrel with you. I'm trying to apologize. They go back and forth. It was tense and prickly. And Punk got it out where he said, I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't mean to screw anything up for you. But because Seth had been pushing him also, he also said, but because it's you, I can't really be all that sorry. It's fucking great. And Seth was serious. And he fucking bows up. And he tells him that the world doesn't revolve around you. And he has a goddamn legitimate reason to be pissed. And he lays that out. And that's why this is so, and they're being pricks to each other while they're doing it. But that's why this is so great, because and they're both baby faces, but they're both right. And they articulated it. Because if they both hadn't been on here, it could have turned to mush. But anyway, so now Seth is mad at Punk because Punk took something from him, so it's his turn to take something away from Punk. I love that.
And again, the intrigue, we kind of just spoke about it the other day. They got everything right in front of them with Punk and Drew. Rollins, we said, was right there for after Drew, but here he is being reintroduced into the mix right now. That was the original main event I shouldn't say main event. That was originally one of the big matches for WrestleMania before Punk got hurt. Punk and Rollins. There's been that thing there from the moment Punk showed up again with Rollins yelling at, "Fuck you, Phil, fuck you!" That was the most ridiculous thing ever.
Fuck you and your friend Jim.
And they teased it here. You would think him and Drew's going to be a multi-match thing. I hate for things just to become three-way matches for no reason. Also,
well, I don't know that they're heading for a three-way here. I think they've got Punk and Drew, but they've also potentially got Drew and Seth to say that and Punk and Seth. They've got everybody. It's not just one, is what I'm saying. But go ahead.
No, I guess that's really it, because they don't need the world title. You got Drew away from that finally, because now it's just him and Punk doing their thing. Rollins still wants it, but you have to think Gunther's about to have a run with it, because I can't see any other reason why they would keep it on Priest over Gunther. So
that one's going to be hard for me to swallow if that happens.
Yeah, I just don't see that possibly happening right now. And Gunther really hasn't even been around, so they're building it, just videos building him right now. But again, back to this, Punk and Drew should be a multi-match program, and you could do gimmick matches and build up to it. It'll make sense. And the intensity is just there. It's great. And then the question is, when do they execute something with Rollins, and against who?
Execute something when they line it up against the wall. But then, so this was the big first segment, right? And boy, everybody's got their game face on. And then we get Jey Uso and Gable. And that was the transition to the spooky part of the program. And I got to, honestly, it was, there you go. We love Gable. We know what we got with Jey. So the match happened and Gable got an ankle lock and some of the lights start going out. And then people go, ooh. And then some more lights go out. And people go, ooh. And then smoke comes into the ring. Oh. And by the way, the babyface, Jey Uso, rolled out and ran away as quickly as he could.
The smart man in there, once again, ran away. How come Gable's always cornered by these people? The fans are all there. But Gable's like, I have nowhere to go. I'm in a dark alley. What will I do? How about just run into the crowd?
Well, Uso hit the spear, by the way, 1, 2, 3, before he ran out of the arena, because when the lights went out, Gable just dropped his advantage. But yeah, he can run, and then Gable is he's wandering. Even when he wakes up from the spear and he sees the smoke and he sees the ugly girl zombie, he rolls out and he's back. He's back running. He's back walking, running, where he's not running, but he's walking, but he's backing.
It's not even a male zombie. It's a woman. He's running from a woman zombie. It's not some big muscular zombie that's going to kick his ass.
Well, no, because she's got teeth.
She's got a box. Knock the package out of her hand and kick her.
Hold on now. I am not advocating for any kind of interspecies sexuality
What?
between humans and zombies here. You let her keep her box.
No,
But
not
the
that
thing is,
box.
she's got
The other
she,
box.
if she's got teeth, and if she's a zombie and she bites him, regardless whether he can beat her up or not, then he will have his blood infected and become a brain-eating member of the living dead also.
But if it happens at Raw, they'll probably cover the medical expenses.
Well, you know, that's true, and they're doing a lot with stem cell these days.
That's right. You never know what could happen.
Well, anyway, he ran away finally, and she gave her box was given to the announcers. Michael Cole, I knew he was like that in his younger days, but I thought he'd calm down.
They're the announcers who didn't run away.
No, nobody runs except Gable. And, you know, I forgot to even look because I was zipping through at this point when she's just going to hand this thing. I think it was to McAfee this time. Were the security guards passed out on the desk, or did you even notice at this point? They've done it so often.
You know, I don't remember if they did it this week.
I'm thinking they should have hammocks. Behind
really?
where they
Really?
you get the shot of the announcers are still alert and coherent at their desk, but the security guards that are supposed to guard them are asleep in hammocks.
How about having the announcers in hammocks? The first broadcast team ever in hammock together.
Well, you might have a hard time selling McAfee on that. In one of those love swings or something with Michael Cole. But anyway, then we had Bronson Reed and Pete Dunne. And Bronson won with a big splash, 1, 2, 3, and then Sheamus ran out and beat him up because he was abusing his privileges. And that was the whole first hour of Raw, Brian. We're at the 9 o'clock hour.
The first segment was really, really good. And then it was like AEW. They went right to the spooky segment.
Yeah.
We went right from the really good right into the garbage can.
Wait a minute. I thought I had a garbage can set. Well, guess that would be the garbage being emptied into the...
I just want to see one of these baby faces turn around and yell, "Stop playing that goddamn piano!
Would you stop playing that piano?
The monsters are bad enough! Stop playing the piano!"
At least it's an easy beat to keep. If you've got a pulse, even if you're on somas, you can bing, bing.
Obviously, the spooky woman came out with a box, presented it to Michael Cole. We would later find out what was in that box. It was not a box of awesome.
No, it was not. I would call this a box of disappointment. What they were given there on that television program, there a box of sameness, a box of regularity, a box of disappointment. You expected it, and that's what you got. It's the same thing you got last time. That's terrible. Every time, Brian, that you get, or I get, or any of the listeners out there get a box of awesome in the mail from boxofawesome.com, it's something different. And you're surprised and you're delighted. It's like Christmas morning. You open it up like a young schoolgirl with a new Barbie doll that you can pet on and dress up and put into strange positions if you like, even if you're a young man.
What?
Between the ages of 6 and 9.
What?
But nevertheless, our friends at Bespoke Post, every month they come up with it. You just go to boxofawesome.com, you take the little quiz, tell them what you're interested in. We've talked about the many items, the Thai from Thailand, Thai moon knives that I just got that are sharper than a serpent's tooth, and the various food preparation items that we have gotten, and the barbecue rubs and sauces, and the other types of knives and swords and various things, and tools. Multi-tools and things that use blacksmithing methods and knife sharpeners and all kinds of things.
You know, if Chad Gable had been getting the box of awesome, he would have been prepared for anything that came at him.
Yes, he would have. He could have taken one of these knives and just and slayed those evil zombies with their brain-eating powers.
Or just cut through the ropes and left.
Yes, well, the ropes are easy to get through, especially
with a
if
tie
you're as
knife.
athletic as he is.
With a tie knife, that tie knife is sharp, and you can sharpen it.
Once you get out into the crowd, if they're trying to block you so they can see the zombie eat you, then you might have to be carving your way through a wall of human flesh.
With one of their fine bone saws.
That's true. At Box of Awesome, you never know, folks, and you're supporting small businesses because 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is a small, up-and-coming brand that is seeking to reach out and touch the lives of more people around the world, and Box of Awesome is assisting in this process. So that's what you do. You just go to boxofawesome.com and enter the code JCE at checkout, and you get 15% off your very first box with that self-same code of JCE, because that way they know you're in with the program here. And again, you don't have to be like Brian and just talk about, all I want is medieval torture devices.
That is not just like Brian. That is not a true statement.
They've also sent us some fine cocktail and wine tasting items and accessories and glasses and things. Fun for the whole family.
Beautiful candles, actually. Beautiful smelling candles. I really like the candles.
Yeah, well, they're artistically shaped as well and attractive to the naked eye. But no, they smell better than they look, as candles usually do.
But these candles are really good, is what I'm saying.
Yes, they're good. They're good. And try them on Ritz crackers. They're even better. I'll tell you what, boy. So, boxofawesome.com, what's that promo code again, Brian?
JCE.
There you go. 15% off your first box when you sign up right spanking now.
Right spanking now. With Box of Awesome.
Yes,
Promo
we
code
mentioned that.
JCE.
That too.
Let's go back to the spanking known as Monday Night Raw.
Well, Brian, before we do that, I've actually got some breaking news here. See, you do this to me all the time. I got to do it to you. This has just come across my desk. Oh. It's on the emergency line, the teletype. Did you hear about this? A pastor is facing federal charges after he allegedly hit his wife in the head during a flight when she got upgraded and he didn't.
I have not seen this story, no.
Well, we do. We try to encompass news around the broad spectrum of what the human race is all about, and this kind of epitomizes it. July 2nd, Alaska Airlines flight from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska, Roger Allen Holmberg Sr. and his wife were traveling for an event related to their ministry. And according to witnesses interviewed by Anchorage Airport Police, Holmberg asked his wife, "How the hell did you get the upgrade?" And she responded, "I'm a Gold Point member. Don't speak to me like that."
Don't say hell, Pastor.
Well, then he allegedly handed his phone to his wife from the aisle while telling her to read it and gestured with his middle finger. And then sometime after handing her his phone, Holmberg allegedly attempted to swing toward his wife and struck the top of her head.
Jesus.
Another witness told the police that he went to the first-class lavatory after the incident. And the witness, I guess this sounds like one of the flight people, said, "If there are any further incidents with you, we will put you in handcuffs." So apparently, Holmberg's wife told the police he struck her in the head with the back of his knuckles, knowing that she had epilepsy and contact with her head could cause a seizure.
Oh my God.
This pastor, the pastor, she claims, has a history of abusing her and had previously broken her finger.
How old are these people?
Well, hold on. It's set up here now. I think, did it? No? I guess they're not, they don't want to be ageist. So they don't, I'm trying to see ages on these people. I don't have ages on these people. But anyway, so his defense for this, he's telling authorities he's upset that his wife had been upgraded to first class because he wanted her to travel with him and sit next to him. But he was not a violent person, did not intend to hurt his wife. He tapped her on the head in passing to get her attention, which is, something that we all do. Hey, whack. Come here a second.
Hey, epileptic wife, I'm talking to you.
Yes, boom, I'm talking to you. And he added that he and his wife had been going to marriage counseling. And apparently because his wife was disrespectful to him often and had anger issues.
Of course.
Oh, he told authorities of a previous incident where she allegedly grabbed his leg while he was driving and broke her finger.
Took a turn at the end there. I didn't expect that. Okay.
Yes, on a reversal. So,
wait, how does that happen? She grabbed his leg and broke her finger in the process.
Apparently, so while he was driving, could possibly off a cliff. I'm not sure. But anyway, I love the love is in the air. I love the way that they've been going to marriage counseling to examine these issues about wrapping his epileptic wife on the head. And apparently he was arrested upon landing and transported to the Anchorage Correctional Center.
Anchorage?
Alaska.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And that's what they said. Alaska, what'd he do to you, ma'am? He has since been released, but cannot come within 100 yards of his wife. And now sometime he said he couldn't come when he was right next to his wife. In a statement, he also banned from Alaska Airlines.
There you go.
So there you go. But this, just in case you're going to this fellow's church or ministry or whatever kind of fucking 3-card Monty deal they got going on, Roger Allen Holmberg Sr. and his wife. So if there's a junior, he's at least, this is a middle-aged man, I would think at best.
If you have a kid at 20, by the time you're 40.
Well, but do you become senior when the kid's like fucking 6? Nobody knows the kid's around? Or is it like senior usually is older people?
I thought senior was just if the person has the same name.
Well, yes, but I mean, would you be being identified in court fucking documents as something senior if your kid's like fucking 4 and you're a 28-year-old dipshit?
Well, otherwise there's some sort of age classification of when you're allowed to be a senior and when I'm not saying when you're
allowed. I'm just saying when you recognize that any of these fucking little rugrats and crumb snatchers even are around.
Vince would have used that. Vince would have totally used that. No, yeah. After the age of 44, you can't be a junior. You can't call me junior.
I think until Junior gets some kind of criminal record, they ought to just make his fucking dad for the point of the goddamn scrutiny here.
How's that counseling going, huh? So, Pastor, tell us again about what you call tapping your wife on the head. Tell us about this.
No, the counseling worked wonders because now he's just rapping her on the head instead of breaking bones.
On a plane in front of people.
Yeah, apparently over the top of people.
Yeah, really? How tall was this man?
She's in first class. He's up there going, hey, how'd you get this fucking seat, bitch? So, and again, handed his phone to his wife from the aisle. Was she on the window seat? Was he rapping her, this epileptic, on the head over some businessman from Boise, Idaho?
Well, I'm sure the pastor has lots of good advice for people who need some advice for their life.
His first 3 words next Sunday are, I have sinned.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem right there. We can predict what the next step is for him. The big apology.
The 2-step.
The 2-step.
That's the next step for him, yes. And God forgives those who forgive me. Anyway, speaking of forgiveness, should we go back to the Raw? Might as well.
I feel like that's what Gary Hart would call it. I'm on the Raw.
Yeah, would you like some corn, brother? All right, it was 9:00. On the eastern part of the country, eastern time zone, and there was Sami Zayn coming to the ring to do a promo, and I'm praising people. Boy, I feel positive, very positive, as Sheik would say today. But I got to praise people again. Sami Zayn is not only a good underdog babyface in his matches. He is a good underdog babyface in his promos. He gets it. He understands how to be him. And that's more difficult and not as prevalent as one would assume so, looking from the outside in. You know, or he could have been a mute luchador, but I prefer this. And he did the promo about Braun Breaker and how he persevered at Money in the Bank and, you know, it'd never count him down, blah, blah, blah. Very good, right? And again, sounds genuine. He's not out there droning the prepared remarks, right? And then Braun's music plays and he comes out and they're face to face and he won't say anything. He's just staring a hole in Sami Zayn. He just staring him down, Brian Last is what he is, staring him down like he's going to the chair. And finally, you know, Sammy's like, are you going to say anything or would you come out here saying anything to me or what? He hands him doesn't hand it to him. He kind of gives him the microphone. And Braun, he got it out in Steiner fashion. He tried to say something to the effect of, I came out here to look the only man in the locker room who's beaten me in the eye. And it took him around, he went around his elbow to get to his wrist, but it sounds natural coming from him because he's a Steiner. And, you know, he's very philosophical. He's, but hey, you know, I could say I want a rematch, whatever, but there's no reason for me to get a rematch. He's kind of wandering around the ring. So I've been thinking, and he just drops the microphone and turns around and fires the retro rockets, however the fuck he does this, and spears the fuck out of Sami Zayn. And boom, and he gets on him, and here come the agents and the referees, and they can't hardly pull him off, and they're trying, and finally he starts to leave, and he does the around the ring spear, and you know, I know it's so cool, and that this is one of the things that I'm willing to let go. They never use that camera angle for anything other than that move. So why do they got a camera, potentially a cameraman up there for that? Could they cut to it every once in a while? But I don't care because it looks so cool. But have you noticed that?
I hadn't thought of it before, but you're right.
So it's kind of like, you know, that this some element of this may have been predetermined. But anyway. So boom, and he does the around the ring spear, and now out comes Ilya. Ilya, oh, have you seen Ilya? Ilya, he sells his ass off. And he's pissed off because he and Braun got their thing going on, right? And they're going to have a match later tonight, so is the more on that later type of deal. But your thoughts so far on Braun continuing to fucking look great and then getting a star push down correctly for once.
Well, again, he lost the match at the pay-per-view, and then afterwards you didn't see it, but Sami did a promo putting him over. Just about how he underestimated Braun, even though Braun lost. He was talking about him almost like he won. And then this thing here, I love the moment where he dropped the mic and just tackled him. No one does that. No one does that. That's what you do. And the shot around ringside again, now that I think of it, because you said it, you're right, but I hadn't thought of the fact that they never use this camera angle unless...
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying figure another purpose for it so it's not just that, right? But anyway,
yeah.
Little things.
Yeah, because it is, by the way, a cool angle. I like the idea of seeing wrestling from different camera angles that are reasonable, that we haven't seen wrestling from for the last, 30 years. So I'm open to it.
Plus, they can shoot all the whole building because there's people in all the chairs.
Yeah. But beyond that, I really liked it. Really good.
Well, and we should say that then they took an intermission. The intermission was Finn, JD, and Carlito against Miz and Truth and Braun Strongman. And then, they gave us a little bit more on the Punk and Pierce situation when basically Pierce said, I'm going to call Drew and see if I can set up a meeting about this. And you need to stay home next week. Heal up, let me deal with Drew McIntyre, got Punk to agree to that. But of course, we don't know. He could be home next week, and that gives Drew the opportunity to do something without, them having to do something again, or he could be there to do something again. And that's the good part. We don't know now, but either is okay because the other guy's going to do. Maybe next week, Drew does shit with fucking Seth. Right? So they can have this non-monogamous relationship, is what I'm saying, instead of just the same thing every week. Speaking of non-monogamous relationships, did you see the Judgment Day catching Liv humping Dominic's leg?
I did see this. I know you don't like her, but I think Liv Morgan's been really good in this role, and it's made me watch these segments. She's been great.
But then we're going to have to watch her wrestle Rhea Ripley.
I'm okay with that. It's Rhea Ripley. It'll be great. You'll love it.
She looks like Rhea Ripley ought to be able to pop her like a pimple.
You're right. She's going to have to wrestle a smart match.
Well, and see what you're asking?
Well, I think,
but nevertheless,
I think she will. I think she'll play head games with someone, get them to want some of that ass, and then all of a sudden...
Oh, now do you have to just be crass and
that's
bring
what
the
it
whole
is.
Show into the gutter?
No, come on, that's what it is. That's the whole angle right here.
You had head and ass in the same fucking...
I wasn't even thinking about
thought.
That. Well, listen. You got me off track now. What are we talking about? You want to order a hamburger? No, listen.
All right, shut up now. Just don't be. Now, you watch out there, fella.
Watch out for what?
Well, I'll tell you, because Damian Priest in that segment knew something that Dominic did not know, and we didn't find out what it was at that point, but Dom left after saying he's putting an end to it, and Carlito making remarks about the rigidity of his phallic organ and things and such. It's
an 80s teen movie. It's an 80s teen movie. Just those guys' reaction in the doorway. Carlito with his big hair.
Yes. Oh, then the two heads coming around the side of the, Yes, but that's why I'm saying everybody belongs except Priest if we're supposed to think he's a world champion. He's too fucking mild-mannered to be. Drew got some goddamn edge to him, and everybody's loving him now. And Priest is refereeing the goddamn Katzenjammer kids. For all you fucking nonagenarians out there.
Or for those of you who didn't get that version, the captain and his kids. But with Rhea Ripley back, do you use that as something to reunite them together? Obviously, he knew something because those are the two leaders of Judgment Day. Or do you start the dissolving of all this, or at least to get him away from the whole thing?
Well, it appears that at some point, Priest is, or maybe already being considered a babyface in some circles. So, and Rhea definitely is. So that's why they're in contact. I don't fucking know. I'm just saying the silliness. Everybody likes a good hard-on joke, and da-da. But with Priest in with these more trivial pursuits, that's what I'm saying. Speaking of trivial pursuits, anyway, is there anything more to say about the Bo Dallas VHS interview? It sounds great. What does it mean? What's going to happen as a result of it? And is anything going to happen?
You know as much as I do, and you like this as much as I do. And every time, multiple times with Bray Wyatt and now, we would hear from certain fans who would say, just give it time. I know you don't see it going anywhere yet, but just give it time. He's saying these really intense things that make it all make sense, and then nothing happens. There's been one zombie on TV. Where are the other 4 or 3, whatever it was? Where'd they go?
That's an easy work schedule, isn't it?
Yeah. I just, I hate this stuff. I hate it. What is it going to lead to? Is it leading to a bowl? Is it leading to, I wish it led to a bowl right now. I could use a bowl right outside. Is it leading to a Bo Dallas run, like a push? Again, with like spooky, or if the gimmick is that they're not spooky, they're pretending to be, and he's gonna take it all away, then what the hell has been going on this show? It's just awful. I hate it tremendously.
Well, will you do me a favor? Will you make me a promise? Just hold your right hand up and your left hand red, right foot green, whatever. Promise me. Scout's honor. Were you ever a scout?
I was a Cub Scout, but I gave up after like 1 year.
Do they have any honor? Are you too young to lie then, or do they have to take an oath?
I can't speak for the rest of my den, but I think I was a pretty honorable scout, yes.
Well, then, okay, then promise me Scout's honor. As soon as they make any of this clear, you will be here on the program to explain it to me.
What the hell is that? You mean I have to watch it, but you don't?
No, I mean, whether I'm watching it or not, I don't understand it. And I'm not going to understand it when they make it all clear. So when they make it all clear, then I want you to explain it to me.
So I have to understand it to explain it to you so you understand it?
Yes.
How is that going to happen?
Once they make it all clear.
They're never going to make it all clear. They never make it all clear.
Well, people say they're going to make it all clear. So
well, here's what will make it all clear.
Let me know when the coast is clear.
Here's what will make it all clear. Stick on that wide shot they use for when Braun Breaker runs around the ring so we could spot zombies in the crowd. There's another usage of that camera.
You know, are they going for the zombie demographic to the point where if they get like 12% of the crowd as zombies, they'll put brains on the concession stand menu?
I don't know, but again, it goes to the whole idea. If Bo Dallas is, this great talker, and I'm not saying he isn't or anything, I just don't care enough to pay attention to.
No, I mean, this would be complete dreck in an entirely different way if it was anybody else doing it. He's doing a good job of doing whatever the fuck it is he's doing.
But my question, I guess, is this as effective as him just standing in the ring with a microphone right now because he would have the audience due to a number of circumstances and telling this story in the ring? Again, I know it's all about this visual end of it, and they have this vision, and it's all these things, and that's what started under Bray Wyatt. But that's the thing that drives it away from being wrestling. And again, it was right after the CM Punk segment, a wrestling segment followed by Friday the 13th, and then back to wrestling.
If it's...
Why is Chad Gable the only person on the show who has a problem with this?
Well, he's like the old deal with the cat with the witch. He's the familiar. Is it the familiar where he's the conduit between you and the spirit world? Well, every time Gable's around, he opens up the goddamn atmospheric continuum to where these creepy crawlies can fucking creep in, crap, and creep out.
Is this another part of the WWE Scooby-Doo crossover?
Can we get the mystery? There is a son of a bitch in the subdivision down the road from me that has a mystery machine.
Really?
Over on the other side of it's at a goddamn, not even past the subdivision, but it wouldn't make any sense to you anyway, but it's outside a goddamn paint and body and car apparatus.
This description is a mystery.
Well, they work with cars and work on cars and deal with the various automotive means of transport. And there's a mystery machine, or at least it has been. I haven't seen it lately, but I haven't been by there. You want me to go by there and check? I can be right back.
Hey, speaking of cartoons, want to hear something sad? I mean, not sad, but just it's a pain in the ass. I've gotten my son, who's about to turn 3, into Underdog, who's airing on MeTV Tunes. The problem is, Underdog's on for the first 2 minutes, and then it's nonstop everything else, and then finally back to Underdog at the end. Not enough Underdog.
Oh, is that the end of the story?
That's the end of the story. I was trying to.
I thought you were going to say, so to make sure there was more Underdog, I purchased a DVD collection of nothing but Underdog to feed my child's hunger.
No,
for the Underdog.
There's no Blu-ray. If there was a Blu-ray, I'd purchase the Blu-ray. I have the DVD set, I think, from years ago at Sony, because we were the distributors.
Well, then just to break down and play a DVD.
Yeah, I want a Blu-ray. Whatever.
You format snob, you.
Oh, listen to who's talking, Mr. V8. Beta is best.
Well, it was. But anyway, you want your son to have the entertainment because you know what they say. When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear and frighten those who see and hear, the cry goes out from far and near for underdog, underdog. Speed of lightning, roar of thunder, frighting all who rob or plunder. Underdog, underdog.
He loves that. The problem is trying to get him to sit through. I think I finally got him at least a little bit interested in Tennessee Tuxedo. But that's the problem. It goes from underdog song right to Tennessee Tuxedo or King Leonardo.
Chumley is a very lovable character.
Nah, Tennessee Tuxedo is lovable looking and is, it's, hey, let's say here. It's just, it's Get Smart. What's his name? Don Adams?
Don Adams.
Yeah.
Missed it by that much.
That's Tennessee Tuxedo. Is that a good voice for a kid's cartoon?
Well, it just depends.
Now say, Chumley. Why are we talking about this?
I don't know. Would you like to hear the second verse of Underdog?
Yeah, do you know it?
When in this world the headlines read of those whose hearts are filled with greed and something, oh my shit, I write this wrong, with lightning speed comes Underdog.
Oh my shit, I don't think that was part of the song.
That third line escaped me. But anyway, speaking of...
that part where Underdog took a shit mid-flight.
Yeah, mid-flight. I'll tell you what, that's why they had to do something about Underdog, because the
pastor hit him on the head.
When super people shit, it's invulnerable shit also, right? So falling from a height like that, Superman had issues with that too. It would smite a motherfucker.
You think a superhero with superpowers that their excrement would have powers too, or just have what exactly are you saying?
No, I'm not saying it'd have any power. Probably really strong stink. Maybe that would be it, but it would be invulnerable, because if they're bullet impervious, that means their shit would be invulnerable too, right? Well, that would be harder than Chinese arithmetic. So
that's an automatic thing. Is their urine invulnerable as well?
I bet you if you got a golden shower from fucking Superman, it'd put your eye out.
Does Superman go to the bathroom?
Well, one would assume that
he's from Krypton.
But the evacuation process for someone who's obviously, if not mortal, at least mortal shaped. And Lois kept coming back for something, so we know there's something in there. And what else would you do with it besides fucking piss? So
you're thinking like a human, though. He's not a human. He's from Krypton.
And plus, you've seen Superman eat in the various
I've seen Clark
comic
Kent
books. And
okay, that's true.
Well, it'd be the same fucking thing. And so therefore it's got to go somewhere.
What does Batman do if mid-crime he has to go to the bathroom?
Oh, he just has Robin fill in for him, doesn't he? Until Batman could he could go right there also, though, because he's wearing dark colors.
Do you think Batman needs Robin, or can Batman exist without Robin for you?
No, I think Batman needs Robin just as to have the weakness, like the babyface manager. And that way they can get heat on the babyface manager and Batman can come to the rescue.
What do you think of Jack Kirby's stuff at DC?
It wasn't the same for me. And the New Gods thing, I still have probably 16 copies of New Gods #1 because it was supposed to be this fucking giant goddamn success. But
it wasn't the same to you in terms of the characters created, or?
Yeah, it did. It was like an NWA guy going to the WWF, and it just didn't seem like it fit for me. It was... The Marvel Universe was Kirby and Ditko and Bears. Oh my.
Who do you think deserves the credit for Spider-Man, Ditko or Stan Lee?
Well, now we've gone over that. Stan may have been a little bit of a braggart. There's been lots of contradicting testimony. I don't want to slander a legend who's recently gone on to his great reward after being apparently manipulated by his close family for years. So let's just say that a lot of the people that also created stuff there said Stan didn't have a lot to do with it.
Who do you think had more women, Stan Lee or Stan Lane?
That's not a contest. And even
you don't know that. Stan Lee may have been a real cocksmith on the Upper West Side or something.
No, for heaven's sake. Are you out of your mind? Stan Lane will live to be 98 or whatever Stan Lee was. So, well, I guess he's done now. He's married. So I don't want anything like that to get around. But still, I think his total probably approaches Wilt Chamberlain's.
In the 80s, because of your background, like as a kid who liked comics and collected comics, but you really weren't in the same place in the 80s as things were happening. But did you ever check out anything happening in independent comics? Like when Eastman and Laird created Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before they became like commercialized and everything. Had you heard about it or anything?
No, I'm like, what? They're turtles and they do what? Kung Fu? Once that I got him, and people talk about the wrestling bubble now. The only reason you're in the wrestling bubble now, unless you work for the WWE or attempt to do your job for AEW, probably. The bubble back then was every day of your life, from anywhere from 9 o'clock in the morning till noon, you're in a car or a plane until fucking midnight that night, 6 and 7 days a week. You know, I was reading People, Time, and Newsweek, just something I could stick my head in the car or in the plane to keep up with general things in the world, but I didn't have time I didn't see any 80s television, prime time. Something that I never missed until I got on the road with wrestling, and then for like 10 fucking years, I didn't know what the fuck was going on between 8 and 11.
You're big on Seinfeld now, but did you watch it actually when it originally aired?
No. I did, and as a matter of fact, I remember specifically when I actually we took that time off from WCW in, what was it, April and May of 1989. That's when I discovered Cops, because that's the Fox network had just debuted, and that was the first season. I went and told the boys next time we went somewhere, I said, yeah, they've actually got the camcorder there, and the cops are beating the shit out of these people, and they're blah, blah, blah. Because that was very new for television at the time.
Everything on Fox, that, America's Most Wanted, was in the early run of Fox shows. Married with Children.
Christina Applegate.
Well, it wasn't. You're like the exact pervert they make fun of on the show with Christina Applegate.
Exactly. So there you go. And but yes, so that was like, oh shit, I'm watching television at night on a weekday for the first time in 7 years.
What about The Simpsons?
Probably about the same time. I had that year transition between WCW and Smoky Mountain, and then I'm fucking crazy again for 5 years. But so, and yes, I know people are so, well, the VCR was recording fucking wrestling. And so, point being, that was where I was going with this, was the wrestling bubble. Now I can understand the production departments being overworked in these companies, and or the various office personnel. But if the wrestlers think this is fucking overworked, when, they're 2 days a week, they might work TV or whatever, and then they're, at liberty to pursue a life of religious freedom, that ain't a fucking bubble. You literally had no time to live. So that was the bubble. Would you like to bubble back to Braun Breaker?
Yeah, I was going to say, we just did to the review of the Uncle Howdy segment exactly what they do to the wrestling show.
Well, there you go. Took in a completely different direction that meant nothing and was not resolved. And now back to our regular programming. Ilya Dragunov against Braun Breaker. And as I started watching this match, I realized another reason why it's a pleasure watching Braun Breaker perform is because the next time he has a match, and of course it'll fuck up in the first minute, but just try. Imagine he's working on a Crockett show in the 80s with the television setup, or world-class wrestling in the 80s. every move he does, it's a modern match, but it would have been good in the 80s, not out of place in either era, because it just seems natural to shit that he would do. It's not just stuff that would have happened back then, and it's not a lot of gaga that doesn't need to happen now. He's unique in that this shit would have worked anytime because it's his shit. It's reminiscent of Bo Steiner's, but do you see am I making the point I'm trying to make?
I think so. I think you've made it a few times.
Well, then I'm repeating myself is what you're saying. Ilya does a lot of stuff that has been popularized in the modern era of wrestling over the last several years, but Braun shit would work anywhere at any time. And it doesn't date itself. Just every once in a while they get together as friends. The one thing I wish Ilya wouldn't spin so much when he's doing the swinging, turning, kicking. Fuck, it makes me dizzy. I really didn't make notes on this match because I just enjoyed watching it. Ilya, again, underdog, sells like crazy. He's got the over-the-top facials. He's a nut. We love him for it. He's this generation's Roughhouse Fargo. That's what he is. And finally, they're down on the floor, and Braun Breaker just picks a fucking giant announce desk chair up and fucking flings it at him. Boom, DQ. And then gets back on him, and he's getting heat on him, but here comes Sami with the agents and the referees trying to hold him back, and Sami makes a comeback and clotheslines him over the top. But he pulls Sami out and throws him in the post and chucks him over the desk, and Ilya's back up and gets on Braun, and Braun throws him over the fucking desk. And everybody's trying to calm me. This is great. Is this a record for number of weeks in a row that a guy has been in an actual goddamn wrestling angle on this television program and I don't know how long?
I don't want to say that because I think it's been a lot of guys since Triple H took over. They have multi-week angles, even if it's not the big one that everything is going to be focused on. Everything is laid out logically in terms of timeline.
But it's just wrestling angles. It's just simple stuff that you can understand that has been done before in many times, many ways, but you put different people and a different twist on something in a different place and it becomes new. That's what I'm saying. These work as wrestling angles. You'd have seen these anywhere, and this is the way you get a fucking heel over. And this is the way you get heat on an issue between, again, three people. Because Sami is higher on the food chain or on the pecker order than Ilya is. Ilya's new, but he's kind of I can see them having an alliance where Sami's the wizened old underdog and Ilya is the eager young underdog. And they're both perfect for Braun to beat up because he looks big. If he was beating up Bronson Reed, it would no. So very good, very good. Hold on here 1 second.
Well, there we go. And we just saw them a few weeks ago, so.
Sounds like a future Farmer Association speech. But anyway, so that's what's going on there. And then the rest of the program, there was a long girls 6-man tag team match. Did you see any of that?
I don't remember a second of it, so I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
16?
Okay.
There were 16 different women in the match?
No, I said
I don't think I saw it.
A girls 6-man tag team match.
Oh. Well, it's not 6-man tag if it's women.
Well, yeah, I mentioned they were in it.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, they're good. So anyway, then the main event. Oh, no.
I'm hoping they come get me. Come get me, zombies, please.
Well, they're not going to do that. They feed on brains.
Hey.
Anyway, the main event of this particular program was Dominic Mysterio and his mixed tag team partner, Liv Morgan, against Rey Mysterio and his mixed tag team partner, Zelina Vega. And they had a nice match, and it's a long 3-hour program. And finally, basically, Liv's treachery led to Rey Mysterio being crotched on the top rope and splashed by Dominic. 1, 2, 3. Son defeats the father. And they're overcome by emotion, or Liv and Dom, and so they hug, and then Dom realizes, oh my God, what have I done? And Liv pulls him down on top of him, and they are about to do the Humpty Hump, and suddenly Rhea Ripley's music plays. That's who Damian Priest knew, the thing that who knew the who voodoo. That is the person that Priest talked to on the phone, and the thing that Damian Priest knew that Dominic didn't know was that Rhea Ripley is in the building and waited till this very second, apparently, to come out and storm out and stalk out, and Liv ran away out through the crowd up into the arena, and Rhea Ripley starts to get in the ring, and there's Dominic, and my DVR froze. And am I told that other people had the same thing, where they could have had a little bit more time at the end of this broadcast? Or was I out early?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anyone else.
What did you see?
I just remember them kind of facing off. Whatever the relationship is, they were there. And
well, it was on the socials, the social people's media saying, well, they ought to manage their time better for once, the WWE instead of AEW, because it cut off early because apparently Dominic was trying to follow. Rhea walked out on him, and he's trying to follow her and apologize.
Oh, see, I heard I heard Dominic surprised everyone by grabbing the mic and saying, "What's this shit I hear about you getting married?" And then she left because she was embarrassed, and he was he wanted to yell at her some more. So
that was in the back in front of the boys, because they all bought it too. But anyway, there was Raw.
So who's she going to be mad at, Dominic or Liv? Liv's obviously on camera, manipulating the whole situation. And, what man can fight that? Dominic can't.
Well, oh, come on now. I mean, Sarah, you mean to tell me that if you were beholden and betrothed to and promised to and going steady with and regular pals with Rhea Ripley, that if you had the opportunity to mess around with Liv Morgan, that you would succumb to your baser instincts, sir?
If I was a wrestler? Oh, absolutely. You can never trust a wrestler around another woman when their woman's not around them. Absolutely. That's lesson 1.
You can never trust a woman or never trust a wrestler when a woman's not around and they're around a woman, is what you just said.
When their woman
is not around, but they're around another woman.
That's right. That's it. Game on.
Well, it depends on how many curves they've got. But anyway, the point is, I think that certainly Rhea Ripley is not only going to be mad at Liv Morgan, but also she is going to be highly upset at Dominic Mysterio leading to the team of Dominic and Liv Morgan in a handicap match with Rhea Ripley, which is the only way I'll buy that either one of them can whip her.
Well, the other thing, I guess, is they've teased stuff in the past with the rest of Judgment Day and Liv. So we'll see, what happens with Judgment Day as we go forward here. But that was Raw. Rhea Ripley is back. And I guess the end of the dry humping on Raw.
Well, there could be more humping. We just don't know which one's going to hump who. So we got to stay tuned for that also.
Yes, and perhaps once you see this humping go down, you want to call somebody. You want to tell them what's going on, what's going down on the USA Network. And if you want to call somebody, you need a good plan, like the ones offered by our friends at Mint Mobile.
You want to get on the telephone and call somebody, is what the big cat would say, Brian. Your calling plan there is weak. You just said you want to get on and call somebody. You sound like Truman Capote. You sound like Brad Siegel.
Oh, give me a break.
WCW.
Oh, kiss my ass. That's not true.
You gotta call somebody.
Call somebody.
Somebody.
Call Call somebody
with our friends at Mint Mobile, because if you've got friends, ladies and gentlemen, and many of you do, we know you have remarked, we've gotten probably a dozen emails over the last month or so in here to the program, somebody referring to someone as my friend. So we know they're out there. And you can get them in on this also, because after all, a friend does not let a friend overpay for their wireless service. And right now, Mint Mobile is basically telling you, spread the word here. And everybody can ditch their overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile with a plan starting at just $15 a month. And you get the high-speed data, the unlimited talk and text. Brian, you have said that means that you can do all the things with your phone that the kids do these days. You can play the games and take the pictures and send the texts and everything, right, with this stuff.
Of course.
Well, you say, of course. I'm trying to let the people know, because that may be a question uppermost in their mind.
You'll be able to do all the things you could do with Mint Mobile. It'll just be cheaper and better. That's what they're saying here. They don't understand this. You don't understand this.
Well, I want to make sure that our audience knows that they can have everything they have with the big high-priced plans with this plan for only $15 a month. Of course, now that's when you sign up for a 3-month plan. So it's $45 over 3 months, because that's $15 a month, but that is the price, which is significantly more inexpensive than some of these other premium broadcast outfits there. So I want to make sure that the people know that if you want to text little Junior, that's included. And you can take pictures of your weenie and send them out to the school board.
What? No, the school board. Yeah, do it to Rick Steiner's school board and see what happens.
Well, you can do anything that people do with their regular, big, overpriced phone plans. They can do with the fine, inexpensive Mint Mobile phone plan. And let's say, as a matter of fact,
let's say good things.
You can hack into people's shit with one of these too, right?
Again, let's not focus on things that will have the listeners thrown into the clink. Let's talk about things.
The clink.
Let's talk about things to help everyone involved in this process.
There should have been a situation comedy in the '60s about the clink and just the criminals that get locked up in a jail. And nevertheless, I'm just saying, you don't have to worry about being jacked around and not being able to do something. Right now, if you've got a phone plan, it's $100 a month, and you want to call your mother, then you can call your mother on this Mint Mobile phone plan for $15 a month. So why would anybody have the one for $100 when they can have one for $15? Is what I'm asking you there, Brian. Why?
I think that you're saying good things and things that make sense, and these are words coming out of my mouth that I didn't plan on putting together before they came out of my mouth. But Jim, people pay even more than $100 sometimes.
Well, and they're fucking idiots, aren't they?
Absolutely. So,
folks, if you know anybody doing that, as a matter of fact, don't tell them about Mint Mobile until you borrow some money from them, because apparently they're just spendthrifts and throwing out money like drunken sailors. So put the touch on them for a bit and then tell them about Mint Mobile. And right now, if you go to mintmobile.com/JCE, you're going to get that new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. That includes calls to mother, text messages, and pictures of your weenie, the whole package. $15 a month for a new 3-month premium wireless plan. mintmobile.com/JCE. The $45 upfront payment is required, equivalent to $15 a month, and new customers only on that 3-month plan. Speeds are slower above 40 GB on the unlimited plan. I don't have a clue what that means. And additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. You can see Mint Mobile for details. If you live in Idaho, they may not want you to communicate with the rest of the country, but we don't know for sure. You go to mintmobile.com and check it out.
All right, Mint Mobile. But from there, it's my show. Jim, from there. Oh, boy, that sounded bad.
Boy.
I got to get off this spooky shit. Jim, let's get through Dynamite, because we have other things we need to do.
Yes.
AEW Dynamite last night from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. A big house. I think they had around 5,000 people there, maybe slightly above that.
Well, it's Stampede Week, you know.
It's a lot of bulls, I would assume.
Well, wrestling is traditional. Stampede Week, the Owen Hart tournament. I'm sure they got a bunch of local publicity as they actually accomplished their mission for once. They got some people in the building.
You ever see any of those pictures of like the old Stampede parades from like the 70s? It'd be like a couple of the Hart kids and Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Like in a car.
God, yeah. And there's one year I think they tried to have the ring and it broke down halfway through or whatever. The ring on a trailer and the fucking axle broke or something. But that way it's the biggest thing in Calgary. I never understood Stampede wrestling as more than a, oh my gosh, like they're stampeding until, I got into business and got some element of understanding of Calgary, Canada, and that it's like an Old West flavor in Canada that we would think of from New Mexico or Texas or the Wild West or whatever. Of course, this was in the 1940s. They were still in the, they actually all carried 6-shooters and had gunfights on Main Street until about in 1947. That was outlawed by the Prime Minister.
That's the thing about Stu Hart's accent that always gets me. You can never figure out what exactly it is.
It's like it's a family accent. It's not a Canadian or a regional. It's a family accent. There's elements of the Canadian, and all that type of thing. But the whole Stu Hart family it's a Hart family accent.
Well, this show, despite Dr. Martha Hart. God damn it. Dr. Martha Hart's appearance. This did not have a Hart family accent, this show.
Well, there were some accents on it. And I'll tell you what, I know I'm being charitable on this program. I don't know why. But here, I'm going to talk about something else that I liked that came to the top of the program before the whole thing went to shit again. It seems to be a thread amongst both companies. It's just that the WWE has so much farther to fall before they get to the direct level. But they did a cold open for once instead of just, here we are in the arena and here's somebody coming down the aisle because we're afraid you're going to switch out. They had a package that told the story, MJF's promo. MJF's actions with Garcia and Osprey, with his own words as the voiceover, edited obviously from the longer full length of the interview that he did, but he articulated this thing perfectly, and the video backed it up, and it gave it even more impact. And you see, God, for once, it's like they meant to fucking do this. And it may make more sense as an angle, as a wrestling angle, to try to draw money and get some interest than anything they've, if not ever done in a long time. And then the announcers were Sockface, Tony Schiavone, and Nigel McGuinness, because the story is that Jericho had the EVPs banned Taz because he was rude to whatever the fucking thing was. I hope Taz is okay and just took a fucking week off rather than have to go up there and put up with this shit any further. But why are they making Nigel be just a complete heel to the point where he's not credible at all because he's just taken the contrary viewpoint no matter what the fuck is said? And the sun will come up tomorrow. Well, not if I have anything to do with it.
Not if I get off this yacht yelling here. See, I like the happy Robin Leach Nigel more than the I'm a heel, so I have to be a heel all the time Nigel.
Yeah, I don't know why he's doing this, because it's not like Taz does it. He wasn't replaced anyway. But here's where I'm going to be nice, because out came the high-priced acquisition, Will Osprey, for an in-ring promo after what happened last week, after the things MJF said, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, can he hold his end up in a verbal conflict with MJF. And to be honest, I like what he did because he didn't come out there and try to be cute and blah, blah, blah. He sat on the top turnbuckle and he talked to him fairly normally, not over the top. But he had a couple good lines. He said, well,
there was no direction to it.
Well, that's the thing is it meandered, but I liked his tone. But at first he said, MJF, you want to blame the people and this and that. Well, you've got ADD. I got ADHD, and it doesn't give me an excuse to be a little prick. And by the way, what are all these fucking illnesses? There's a great line, but what are all these fucking illnesses? I don't fucking know what all these fucking illnesses are anymore. But the thing is, it was like he was workshopping it. I agree that he went to a couple places twice, and he didn't really build his, like, MJF doesn't like me because he gave 3 reasons, and the last one was probably the flattest one of the bunch. But he's trying. And it's just the accent. I know it's some people find it endearing, but is it hard for an American ear to get what he's cooking?
I was having that same thought because I liked his intensity. A few times he had a really good line and then he kept going. Or he didn't tie it together well. It was all over the place while the crowd sat there and listened. And sometimes popped. There's something there, but I think he needs to be produced.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's going to do it there. Who's going to teach him how to do a promo there? And he's never had to do promos like he has to do now on American TV.
If I was him, I'd ask the guy he's working with, MJF, I'll teach you an extra flip if you'll fucking work with me on my timing.
I think it was good, but he needs to learn, actually how to go out there and start here and end up here and make it work in the middle. I don't think he has that yet.
But I must say, being a nice and fair individual, there's more there than I had been afeared of if he, if he can just try to start being more legitimate and not cute like the kids try to be cute over there these days. And they did the deal, and I don't understand this. He cut the promo on MJF, obviously, and then calls him out, and the music plays, and there's no MJF. But at the same time, Nigel told old Sockface when, I guess he's not coming out. Well, stop playing this game. MJF's not here tonight. So just make the goddamn lead announcer look like a fucking complete, which he is, but a complete liar and a shill and a worker. Why is anybody believing it at this point? They always come on out here, play music, and a guy doesn't come. And the announcers would know, one would think the guy's been in the building. But having said that, he appears on the screen. And I don't know if this was still the era of the after mags, Brian, would the headline be, is MJF the De Niro of wrestling? I can see Bill doing that, can't you?
Yeah, De Niro, Jerry Lewis.
Hey, come on.
Well, because it's Bill. It's Bill.
Well, I didn't say he had to imitate him. I'm just talking about writing the headline. No, he has so much inflection. He gets so much across in a short period of time. And, if he couldn't be there in person, then this is probably the best thing that he could have done, is just to follow up last week on the screen so we get to hear from him. And now here's the goddamn deal I don't understand, is that he challenges Will for an international title match next week on television, and Osprey accepts. So is this, have they false booked this to do an angle that will lead to, one would assume, Wembley Stadium or some venue or show that it would be worth it to give that away? Or are they just going to put it on fucking television? That doesn't make any sense. So the promo, let's talk about that for a second, but the promo, you registered Will's, or your opinion on Will's effort, but I think MJF, if he wasn't going to be there live and they can't be at each other's throats every week, again, see Punk and McIntyre, they can't do it every fucking week. MJF's was about as good as it could be.
Yeah, and right now it's as noisy as it could be. The timing's perfect. I'll talk through it.
I hear your pitch. Sounds like a bunch of Sherpas bringing you up the mountain.
No, the MJF promo was good. Obviously, he wasn't there, and I guess there are some limitations with when they could film him and what they did, but personally, it was a little too stagey, the setup in the background. I would have liked to seen him like that, just like in a lounge or something to look real. Not like...
Oh, you're saying he's got a drinking problem. He's always hanging out at the bar or the lounge or something like that. I'm saying
they had the nice red lighting in the background like every other lit segment in the backstage area on AEW. It should have looked a little different. He wasn't there.
Most of the talent, I will agree, in AEW, most of the talent is lit.
All right, I tried, ladies and gentlemen. Even with Gardeners behind me, I tried. But, of course, Jim Cornette just doesn't want this to be a good show today. Why did it change its tone like that? Hold on. Oh,
don't make me change my tone. Pismo.
Your other question, the Hogan Goldberg question, I guess, is a way to look at it. Giving this away for free on TV. Is next week the show they give it away on? Is that Nashville?
No, Blood and Guts is the 24th, correct?
Okay, so it's not even that show. You're giving it away on TV, and then on this show, someone won a title match for Osprey's title, correct?
Well, yeah, no. Somebody won a title match for Swerve's title. The winner of the Owen gets the main event at Wembley, and then later on they clarified for the AEW World Title, and then they clarified against Swerve Strickland.
What did Pac win?
Pac won an international title match. That's right.
Is he the international champion or the continental champion?
Who?
Osprey.
No, he's the international champion.
Oh, so Pac won a title match with him. Was it at Wembley or anywhere?
Who's the continental champion?
Okada.
Okay, well then who's the Ring of Honor world champion?
Mark Briscoe.
But they just unified that whole thing with the winner of the Champion Carnival.
That was the Ring of Honor Strong Championship and another couple of championships. And that
was Kingston.
That was Kingston. That became the Continental Championship, but then the other outside of AEW championships just decided they would keep their titles and do their own thing. And there'll be another tournament next year. But again, we're talking about Wembley and what they're setting up and that they're giving this away on TV in a week. What do you think of that? This is, if you think about AEW matches that can make money, is there anything bigger than this? I say right now because there's nothing else right now, but right now, or even if they give it a build for a few months, is there anything bigger than MJF versus Osprey right now to you?
I don't see it. And see, when I said earlier, maybe they false booked it, they're going to do an angle, maybe. And I have no foreknowledge, and this I'm sure ain't going to be it, but some variation of the old deal where they're supposed to have the match, but MJF, the heel, cries that he's injured or he's not cleared or whatever to sucker Osprey in a position where he can fucking brainbuster him or DDT him or tombstone, whatever the tombstone thing, whatever the goddamn deal is he did to Garcia, drop him on his head. And then laugh at the fans again, because to have that match, even if you have it and then do an angle afterwards, you've taken the bloom off the rose. You have popped the proverbial cherry on people not having to pay to see what it looks like for MJF to be in the ring, being physical with Will Osprey. And I mean, they can bring Luthez back from the dead to fucking face Jesus Christ at the second coming of the Last Supper, and it ain't going to pop a giant goddamn rating different than what they've been doing to begin with. So why wouldn't they keep their big money match special? I would think Swerve, and now we know from later on Danielson, which, and again, God, can they put, they make Swerve their world champion. What are the people loved him, cheering him out of the fucking building? Oh my God, carried him out on their shoulders. So they put him against every sentimental favorite and other beloved babyface. And I guess at Christmas, he'll goddamn ride shotgun for Santa Claus. But anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, I don't know why in the world you would give this match away on television unless they're going to do some kind of hot finish that they think necessitates a rematch, which I would do that as an angle without the match in front of it. But that's just me.
Do you think they have to have the match, or do you think if they did an angle, something, to get heat on MJF, whatever it may be, if they did something, is it too big of a ripoff considering the way AEW sells themselves to their fans for them to do an angle, which should be beneficial, but again, they're selling everything on match quality. You sell tickets on match quality, you may have the fans may have a problem if you do an angle. What do you think?
I don't think they're selling tickets. So, again, it's not my fault that they fucking agreed to this, but if in some way, shape, or form, MJF, who's already warned everybody, I'm going to fuck with everything you like, I'm going to fucking make this company and all of you fans pay for disrespect me and abandoning me and all the other verbiage. MJF is the one who challenged Osprey for this thing, for the match. Maybe he's suckering him in to get him close and he could do something to him, boom, and then Osprey goes to Tony Khan or Christopher Daniels or one of the fucking Lollipop Guild or whoever's running this hot dog stand this week and demands a match at Wembley Stadium in his home country where he's going to be face-to-face with MJF instead of MJF pulling some kind of fucking bullshit. I don't know. Because I don't know what they're doing here, giving us away with a week's notice. And I mean, is Swerve and Danielson as interesting in Medi Old England as Osprey and MJF will be, especially after 6 more weeks of promos?
I think Swerve is less interesting now than he ever has been, and I think with Danielson, in their eyes, this story of him in his last year trying to overcome all these obstacles is good booking and has been done well. So for them, I think that is compelling, but I don't think to the AEW fan at large, that's compelling. I think MJF versus Osprey is the most compelling thing, maybe the only compelling thing in the entire company.
Anyway, let's move on, but I'll wait and attempt to be impressed. How's that?
All right.
And then they did a package on Danielson and Page in the Owen Hart final, and at various points they said the winner gets the Wembley main event. And then they said the winner gets an AEW title match. And then finally, later on, they mentioned that it's held by Swerve. And actually, they should be saying it gets a shot at the AEW world title currently held by Swerve Strickland if he has any defenses coming up between now and then. But they probably don't know that, do they? Tony hadn't decided based on which other of his action figures he got off the shelf. And Jeff Jarrett was the special enforcer, which is Tony reacting. I'm sure this was not planned when they went into the thing, but reacting to Jeff doing some great interviews and being actually the only person that knew Owen in this whole fucking thing. And the people started getting behind him. But again, the logic in their universe is there's nobody producing the announcers to bring this up. But okay, yes, they're changing Hangnail Adam Page's character, the Healy music, the change in the hairstyle. He got a frown on his face. He's supposed to be a heel, but suddenly Jeff Jarrett doing nothing but knowing Owen Hart 25 years ago and doing a couple weeks of promos. Now the announcers who were saying, what a no good piece of shit, are saying, oh, one of the all-time greats. He's a Hall of Famer. Jeff Jarrett. Do you see there was no in between? There was no action he took otherwise than said some nice things about a guy who was a friend of his. Jeffrey Dahmer had friends. But the announcers are wishy-washy, is the point I'm making. Did you even pick up on that, or are you listening to him at this point?
I mean, I say it all the time. It's the worst commentary team. Even if you add Nigel, the problem is Excalibur and Shivani. Those two, specifically them together, is audio poison. It is a killer. It's a killer. You have no good communicators. Shivani just yells out positive things. Or, oh, this son of a bitch. I've had enough of this guy. Oh, this is great. Oh, the fans are digging this. I'm digging this. Good call. He says good call. Like, you give him a snapmare. Hey, that was a snapmare. Oh, good call, Taz. What?
I heard him the other week, some of this phony bullshit. I love my job.
Yeah. Shivani's worthless out there. He should be removed immediately, but he won't be because he's a fucking stooge and Tony Schiavone likes him for that. That's one of the reasons Schiavone... Talk to people who weren't into the whole revisionist history of Schiavone and WCW about Tony Schiavone's dealings in WCW behind the scenes and get back to me. And then Excalibur is just atrocious. On a indie... You say indie... I did commentary a couple of times on the indies and I wasn't that bad. He's bad. He's a bad communicator. And you catch him now if you listen, where he tries to explain something simple and he gets the words all mixed up and he throws himself off. Not good. You need to redo the commentary team.
I've heard a few times where he went around his elbow to get to his wrist, and you could tell he's like, how can I get out of this? But anyway, the Danielson and Page. It was long. Danielson excels in stuff like this, especially when he's selling and he's trying to get the other guy over. I just don't see it in Page as a heel any more than I saw it as a babyface, because there's something that's not there. He's athletic. He does shit. He does it. Maybe, I don't want to smear Damian Priest, but we've been talking about Priest. It looks like it and he sounds like it, but it ain't happening yet. I don't see Page at anywhere near even the level that Priest is. He's a guy. I don't see what's going on. He's playing a mean guy. Before he played a happy guy, but then he was a morose alcoholic guy, but he's just always just a guy. Is there anything there that can spark people?
No. No.
And
he's their guy. That's the thing you left out. He's their guy. These guys, one of their big plans behind the scenes in terms of booking, these guys, the Reseda kids, they're going to make Adam Page into a major star. And they put the world title on him, and they teamed him up with Omega, and they gave him a drinking problem. They did everything they could to the best of their abilities to make him a star. And he still just feels like another guy out there.
Well, Danielson, he sold, and he got juice, and he fucking sold some more, and he tried to keep it moving as best he could with hope spots and hitting a knee out of nowhere, but not being able to capitalize. But did I mention this was very long? And finally, Danielson goes for the knee, and Page moves, and Danielson wipes the referee out. And then Page hits the fucking clothesline, and he starts whipping him with a leather belt. And then Jeff Jarrett comes in as the special enforcer and said, don't do that. And Page shoves Jeff down, so Jeff gets up and takes off his shirt and reveals he has a referee shirt underneath. And of course, then Danielson schoolboys him 2 count real quick just to get to people. And again, it's Gaga. How did Jeff know he was going to need that? Well, he was prepared just in case. But then they go back and they do some more stuff, couple more 2 counts, and then Fally Page gets a crossface, and Danielson fights out, and they're rolling around on it. Roll up 1, 2, 3. Danielson wins. And so now it's Danielson against Swerve for the title at Wembley. And again, poor Swerve. He gets so popular, they want to put the world title on him, and then they put him with the only people in the company that are more popular than he is over and over again. And now those people are going to love Danielson. And then Cowgirl Martha Hart and Jeff Jarrett present Danielson with the Owen Hart Cup and the Owen Hart belt that has pink leather on the back of the Hart Foundation colors. And can they say, are you allowed, when somebody is a doctor, then do you have to from then on use their entire full name every time you refer to them? Or could you still just say Martha or Hart?
I think she would probably think, and anyone else who has a doctorate would probably think it's disrespectful to not include doctor because they work for it.
But do you have to say the whole complete name, like Dr. Martha Hart, not even Dr. Hart?
This is her thing. I think they do. If it was just like everyday weekly TV, it'd be one thing. This whole thing is for her.
27 times they said Dr. Martha Hart in the space of 2 minutes. Couldn't you say Dr. Hart or, boy, it's great to see Martha, or just anything to change that up from Dr. Martha Hart, Dr. Martha Hart, Dr. Martha Hart?
Well, I guess you're right.
See, that's what I'm not saying disrespect her, but I'm not. Do we have to say Dr. Marcus Welby every goddamn time?
They say her name more than they say Owens.
That's what I mean. It was like it was just a flood of it. Dr. Martha Hart behind the Owen Hart Foundation. Dr. Martha Hart in the ring now with a great-looking cowboy hat on. Dr. Martha Hart.
Hey, can I say something? And
I wish you wouldn't, but go ahead.
Well, thank you very little. Do you think with the change in ownership in WWE and, you know, at various times over the last few years, even before the change in ownership, people like Triple H doing what they can to try to mend relationships, like you saw with Bruno Sammartino. New ownership. No Vince. She's trying to do something for this foundation. Is there anything there because Owen's legacy is with WWE. Let's be honest. It's not with AEW. Is there anything there under the new ownership that pulled Dr. Martha Hart in so they could really do something? Or do you think there's no way, like it's just WWE as an entity is the enemy? Well, and I read her book. And by the way, I read her book. She has every right to feel however negative she feels about all those motherfuckers. So I'm not saying she doesn't.
Well, and I've agreed also, before it's like, what the fuck? She has every right not to do business with or allow her husband's name to be exploited by that company. And that's why I was thinking, because obviously I haven't talked to her about it. I didn't call her up and ask her, hey, now Vince is gone. But at the same point, it is the company. It is the company name. I don't know what her standpoint is on the idea that it is still that entity, no matter who's there. There's, who is still there that would have been there then?
Triple H, but he wasn't an executive, obviously.
Well, yeah, he wasn't in power at that point, although depending on what private thoughts Owen had shared on Triple H with her, I'm sure she has a pretty good preconceived notion. I don't know. That's tough because nobody ever expected there to be a new regime of any kind, really, for so long. But I can understand, again, why
Nick Khan.
Even if it was just that entity, she might feel that way, but bring up a good point. You could make a lot more money, get a lot more fucking awareness.
Oh, yeah. WWE would sell out that building. And that's just, the building in Calgary. If WWE got behind it, they'd make it a big deal. Right now, this ownership, they'd make it a big deal. It'd get a lot of attention.
Well,
It'd raise more money. You'd be able to help more people. And more, I shouldn't say more importantly, but also I think hopefully the one thing would be just kind of, not ending it, but just kind of bringing everyone together and moving on without any animosity, because it's a different ownership. If you believe that Vince is gone. And Bruce Pritchard's still there. You asked for a name who was there back then.
Oh shit, that's right, Mike. Well, he's left and come back, as Aunt Lola used to say. But that one thing you brought up, how far would they want to go just to get? I mean, for a Hall of Fame induction, whatever that would. I'm sure they would want some involvement, but are they going to take the Owen Hart Foundation on the road and raise them $50 million? Maybe not. So it might.
But even merch right there to raise money. They do merch with AEW. Owen Hart's in their video game. Owen Hart action figures are on sale from AEW's action figure maker. It's not WWE.
Well, you know what I was about to say? Well, I was about to say that it looks like it's not going to be WWE for a while, because obviously they've got contracts in place for that. But you know what? Since it's AEW, maybe not, but no, Dr. Martha Hart, she would make sure there was proper paperwork. So it's a moot point probably now for quite some time. If they've made this investment in the game and in the merchandise and in the tournament and her appearances, I would think that would preclude them from doing anything with WWE in the near future.
Very selfishly, and you can understand why, but very selfishly, a lot of fans want that closure of Owen being recognized in WWE. And I say selfishly because obviously Dr. Martha Hart doesn't, and she wants something different. And again, read her book. If you want to know about what she went through with them, read her book. She has every reason to be upset and no reason to be called bitter because of it.
Yes.
But so that was the Owen final. Bryan Danielson wins a title match against Swerve Strickland. I'm sick of his fucking music. I'm getting sick of Nana too.
Oh, Nana never gets to do anything else, so he has to do the same thing over and over.
He's got to come up with a new move.
Well, that's what she said.
If Nana doesn't come up with a new move, I might sue.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're entirely insistent upon suing a man because he cannot come up with a different way to gyrate his hips in a sexually suggestive fashion, then I know exactly who you ought to talk to.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you indeed would like to see a man gyrate his hips in a sexually suggestive fashion over the face of a fallen opponent that tried to deny you your proper compensation in a court of law, and then Stephen P. New comes along, boom, and smites that opponent and stands over there and swivels those hips just like he did at the West Virginia Bar Association dinner and banquet a couple of years ago, and he got himself out of that too. Because one thing about Stephen P. New, if he's in trouble, he can get himself off. But I'll guarantee you that he can right and rectify any wrong or uprising that you've got in your life, whether you've been wrongfully terminated, poisoned, tortured, bound, gagged, tied up, taken away, or held for ransom. The attorney that you want on your side to fight your battles in open court or even behind closed doors, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. Brian, can you think of another man that you would want swiveling his hips for your betterment?
For the record, I don't want anyone swiveling their hips for my betterment. But whatever they do for society is up to them.
Well, society needs a good pelvic thrust every now and then.
That's
just
right.
to keep everybody in line.
Well, Stephen P. New, for those
Speaking of lines.
Yeah, for fans of the pelvis or not, Stephen P. New, 87750-STEVE, but back to the pelvis of wrestling known as Dynamite.
Well, yes, because after Danielson got presented with the cup, and where's the saucer to go along with it? Then Swerve's music played, and here came Swerve and Nana, and they go to commercial break. So you think when they come back from the commercial break that Swerve and Nana have confronted Bryan Danielson, who will be his opponent, right? Everybody else is gone. It's just Swerve and Nana. Where did they go? And why did Swerve come out with Danielson in the ring if Danielson was just going to leave under cover of commercial break? That was clickbait, Brian. That's what that was.
I guess so.
It was, we thought we was going to see something and we didn't see. So then Swerve congratulated Danielson. He said it's going to be a true honor facing him at Wembley. What else can he say? I'll kill you, you little fucking broken down white pipsqueak. No, because they're all baby faces. And Swerve, he is still mad, however, that Danielson has a pin over him. But things have changed since then. So that's the big bone of contention that they've got right now for the main event world title match is, yeah, well, the other guy beat me a while back. But people love us both, so we can't really be too nasty about each other. And he talks about the EVPs offering him a spot in the Blood and Guts match, and he will be joining Blood and Guts on Team AEW. He says, I'm going to step up and lead this team to victory over the Elite. So the people that are actually executive vice presidents of AEW are on the team that is being fought by Team AEW. Are you following all this, Brian?
Yep.
Okay. Then Swerve challenged Okodi for some reason at some point somewhere. Yeah, I know he got it in. He's challenging him too, right? Do you remember any more details?
Swerve's challenging Okada?
Yes.
I don't remember any other details. I didn't like this promo. Swerve just rambles now too.
Well, that's
he's another one
saying.
who gets nowhere, and you can't follow what he's saying because he can't follow what he's saying.
It's the stuff they've got him talking about is he is congratulate Danielson, be an honor facing you at people don't want to see Swerve Strickland be nice. He was a baby terrorizer, and they cheered him. Now he's congratulating the guy. It's going to be an honor to fight, and then. The EVPs, well, I turned them down because I'm a babyface and I'll fight on the team that's representing AEW, that's against the EVPs of AEW. And then I'm going to fight Okada too. And then Danielson, it's going to be your final countdown. It was just everywhere. And as they go to the break, because it's 56 minutes into the show and all we've seen is the things that we have described. And they're plugging Willow Nightingale against Maria May as the main event. And right then I know, oh my God, they've got to be out of their minds. Because we've still got an hour to go and that's what they're dangling in front of us as a carrot on the end of a stick. Your thoughts of anything going forward before we move on?
I heard that Swerve is as over as he's been with the people in the building, however many people there may be. But he's lost his luster to me, and his promos don't help. He's got nothing to say, or he's got no way to say it. I don't know. I've gotten sick of Swerve, and I was a big booster of his, obviously, but I'm kind of gotten sick of Swerve Strickland.
He's got to kill people with kindness. It's like, oh, Danielson, Gonna be an honor getting in the ring with you, white boy. I don't
Well,
fucking
that's twice you've called him a white boy. What are you doing?
Well, it's good. Look at the two of them. Danielson is translucent. You can read a newspaper through his fucking chest skin. And I don't think they may both come from Washington, but it didn't look like they come from the same neighborhood. There's liable to be some conflict you could manufacture, but they can't say anything bad because they're both baby faces.
And they can't do that shit again, can they? Or will they? Where, Danielson's there at Dynamite, all of a sudden Swerve shows up in his house with Brie Bella or something. Because that's the shit that Swerve did to get him over.
I think in this case, only if we find out that he's been going over to see Brie for about a year and a half.
Oh, shit.
See, that made you go, shit, didn't it? See? Now that'd be a fight. Anyway, at 9:00 Eastern, we got a comedy rap video of the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn invading the Elite's locker room, where they rifled through their shit, smelled their sneakers, and pissed on two fake buckaroos dressed up as Maddie and Nikki. And I am not kidding. And I know the kids talk fast in the raps, but I can't follow Caster now at this point. It was so quick and so much gaga. I lost track of what he was even saying. But the video, do they have to be just clowns about everything? And if the baby faces are just complete jack-offs about what the heels have done, then does it mean that they care that much? And if they don't care that much, should I care? And did I ask you about 7 questions there?
I have the answers to none of them. But I guess they're on Team AEW.
All righty. Did you enjoy the Stampede Street fight between Samoa Joe and the Learning Tree Chris Jericho? Because it's Stampede Week, so naturally they got to have a Stampede Street fight.
I heard complaints from people in the building about how long Joe was in the walls of Jericho.
Oh, well, we have a way to time it because he got put in the walls of Jericho to go to the break, and he was still in the walls of Jericho when they came back 3.5 minutes later.
Unbelievable.
And I've heard of, slowing down when you're in commercial break to catch your breath, but the point is, Joe tried his best. He did the big dives, he did his stuff, but, they start the street fight by Joe having to snatch Jericho's cowboy hat. And then Jericho dumps out a bag of horseshoes. And as I said, the lion tamer, Boston Crab, whatever the case, through the entire commercial break. And then the walk fight. They go over the rail and they fight in the stands, and then they walk fight through the backstage, just with their hands on each other, just walking. And they go past the coffee station and throw the hot coffee. And Joe gets the sleeper, and Big Bill comes out of a fucking closet somehow with a chair and starts beating up Joe, and then Brian Keith does. And Jericho hits Joe with his Dr. Martha Hart belt buckle. The Dr. Martha. So now they're making a big deal out of Dr. Martha Hart, the ultimate babyface in Calgary, gave Chris Jericho a gift of a belt with a big Western belt buckle. And he's punching the guy with it. Poor Martha. She didn't know her gift was going to be used for ill. But anyway, then that they have beaten up and compromised and diminished and decimated and flabbergasted Joe, and he's down, they put him on a forklift. And Brian, you remember the last time they built a fake room so they could throw somebody through a window?
Oh, that's right. And there was a guy in the fake room who just disappeared?
Yes, because the walls didn't meet. Well, I'm telling you what, that was a goddamn restoration of the Notre Dame Cathedral next to this fucking apparatus that they used next because they put Joe on this forklift and Jericho revs up the forklift and drove him through what can only be described as an obviously fake drywall wall that was attached to nothing and was just hung up freestanding with no studs and held up with clamps. It didn't meet, not only did it not meet the walls around it, but they were all concrete. Well, there was just this fucking about 8 foot tall, 20 foot wide stand of drywall. And when the forklift went through it, you could see not only were there unpainted 2x4s on the face side of this wall that you could see, but when it went through, you could see that, Brian, you're a homeowner. I don't know how much building codes you have studied or how I've watched a lot of people remodel around here lately. How close together do you have to have studs? How far apart are your studs usually?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, 15 to 18 inches. You know how far apart their studs were?
7
in
feet?
this wall? About 8 feet. And not only that, but before he drives through it, besides being able to see the naked, unpainted 2x4s, maybe even 1x2s on the outside of this thing, you can still see sawdust on the floor in front of it where they've just constructed it. It doesn't meet the concrete wall on the side or behind of it. It's just freestanding and it's held up with clamps. And it's an area where you go under the stands there. That's why there's a sign that says caution, low clearance. Because you're just walking underneath of this, something it looks like this in almost every arena I've been in. If it's a slanted area where the stands are going up and it's triangular and you're walking through a hallway around that area. They just put up a goddamn big mess of drywall so they could run the forklift through it. And so now they're stuck under the bleachers and Colt Cabana comes out, referred to as one of the coaches, and is yelling at Jericho, and the doctor stopped the match. Because the match, of course, had still been going on. Up to that point, they'd only been in the back about 3 or 4 minutes. And then they come back after the break and do a replay of it like we needed to see it again. And when Cabana came through, he just reached up and pushed the fucking drywall and it just crumbled in his hands like he was a goddamn incredible fucking bulk. And then they load Joe in the ambulance and drive him out while Jericho and Big Bill and Brian Keith are standing there waving goodbye at him. So, poor Joe, he tried his best. He's a quality talent. But, and why? Somebody leaves in an ambulance every week now. So why are we supposed to be shocked or upset? They just did this last week. Now, so every week of who's going to be next week? Now people will start betting on it.
And again, we saw 2 big attacks at the end of each show. So Tony, in his mind, is obviously heating things up, getting ready for the big August shows. Joe has a TV show to film, so he'll be back soon enough. But Jericho, the story's still Jericho. How awful he is, how awful this gimmick is. Every little bit of this. And he's one of Tony Khan's biggest weaknesses, because he can't get past the fan that he is a Jericho. But goddamn, get this fucking guy off TV. Tony should spend some money and book Chris on like a tour of like Asia for like 3 years. Let him really go out there and spread rock and roll to the world, his brand of rock and roll to the world. And let us live our lives, us wrestling fans. Atrocious, garbage, awful. We need to stop trying to justify his attempts to stay on TV for the remainder of this giant contract.
And now we know also he's the shits at doing drywall.
And on commentary.
He had to have done it himself. Jericho put that thing up himself because nobody that's ever constructed anything would have.
I could have pushed a plastic bag through it.
Yes, no, I'm literally, you just blow on it. It would have fallen down. And it's not like this.
And this is Russo. And this is Russo shit. And this is Russo shit. We're going to put you on a forklift for no reason and drive you through a drywall that doesn't exist. So Jericho and his friends could wave goodbye in the parking lot. This is why people compare this to late WCW, to late period WCW. It's terrible.
Yeah, somebody's on their period. And now they had a 4-way match for a shot at the international title. That's what, see, everybody's getting the shots at the titles here now. And this was Claudio versus Pac versus Felcher versus Ishii. And this was a perfect, I had a cheeseburger that needed to be warmed up, that was left over, that I needed to nosh on, as Howard Finkel would say. And so I went and did that, and what I saw was Ishii is fucking embarrassing. What the fuck? It looks like somebody fucking gave cognitive thought to an armadillo. He's just all stooped over and fucking hunchy and...
Well, he's a shorter man. I think he's only like 5'4", maybe 5'5" at the most.
See, if he had a neck, he'd be 5'9". But he'd take that 6 inches out in the middle that most people have and got.
You go. Watching him against Claudio, it's not good just because of the height difference. And when they were laying in those forearms, I don't know how much of this you watched. It's everything you complain about. The soft forearms that are barely touching. And you could tell. And again, there's a giant height difference. He's 5'4". What is Claudio? 6'5"?
Claudio's about 6'4". Yeah, easily.
He's like a foot taller. It was just so not for me. I thought Fletcher looked really good in this, actually, though.
Well, good for him. Maybe he'll have something to fall back on one day. Anyway, did you see the interaction between Renee Moxley-Good and the Hangnail?
I did. A big dramatic moment or opportunity for Renee here. What'd you think of this?
Well, I'm telling you, she's coming down the hall, talking to the announcers that have just pitched to her. Paige comes out, shoulders past her, and she chased him down and demanded a little respect for what I'm trying to do here, too. And he ignored her and just knocked on the locker room door, and she walked off. I'm pretty sure she can take him. I think she can take him. If I was him, I wouldn't be so fucking flippant with her.
She's from Canada. Maybe she played some hockey.
I don't think she'd need to. I think she could have majored in baking brownies and take fucking Adam Page, but... And nevertheless, he knocked on the door. Oh, Cody opens the door. Can I help you? And Page is going to go in, and he stops him, and I help you. And then the Buckaroos come out. And they do a little bit of their phony repartee, and then Page just growls at him, says, I'll do it, and walks off. So... He was grumpy at him last week. He's grumpy at everybody. But what changed to make him not grumpy with them from last week? But say he lost the match to Bryan Danielson. So is Danielson on that team? Nobody's articulating these things. Does he get a hold of Danielson if he gets in this match with these people as partners? What's going on here?
He'll join their Blood and Guts team, which is what they wanted and what we thought it was going to be. And I don't think it's about Danielson. It's about losing the title match. Losing the Owen meant you lose the match against Swerve at Wembley.
Yeah. What's that got to do with July the 24th in Nashville?
It has to deal with Swerve's on Team AEW as the world champion, and the Bucks and Jack Perry and Okada, Team Jerkoff. They need someone, a fifth man, Adam Page. Other than Colt Cabana, who else could it be? It's going to be Adam Page. And Adam Page, I heard that he just did a promo on Collision, all bloodied up, yelling about things. And he's saying that he's not happy that the fans chose Swerve after everything he did over him. So I don't think that thing's over.
That's MJF's deal, isn't it?
Well, I don't think this thing is over.
So are we now gonna do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 heels with the same goddamn gripe based on their insecurity and rejection fucking syndrome?
So who's Team AEW now? It's Swerve, it's Mark Briscoe. I'm gonna assume Darby, right? Because he showed up later in the show. I thought the Acclaimed, maybe still the Acclaimed. Is that Team AEW right there?
Well, maybe.
Swerve, Darby, Briscoe, and the Acclaimed. All right. They've really done a great job of building up this blood and guts. Hey, do you remember when Tony Khan got beat up? When the owner of the company got beat up by the heel stable? And his dad was in there? What's his dad going to say or do? Nothing. No, it went nowhere. It doesn't matter.
His dad had been waiting to see that for years.
Christopher Daniels like, all right, I got a way to get back on TV. Then we don't see him ever again. He never talks ever again.
Well, you know who talked again, though, Brian?
Who's that?
Mercedes Moon. She comes out, and she's going to have another celebration, and she's got a little display where she's going to have a toast to herself or whatever the fuck. And the fans were just standing there and staring at her. Was she doing her little stripper pole dance? And when she says, say hello to your CEO, there's kind of like, oh, boo.
Could she explain that? Why exactly is she the CEO? What exactly is she the CEO of? Does she understand what the initials signify? C, E, and O? And how does any of that have to do with this?
That has CEOs make money. And because she can't call herself Banks and had all these puns about money.
And the boss, she was the boss, remember?
And she was the boss,
WWE?
and the CEO is the boss, and they make money. And so now she's Mercedes Mooney, and she's a CEO, and she's a bad actress, and she's doing blah material, and she doesn't do it well. And the only heat she got was for in the middle of this thing when she said, I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, because they're in Calgary, and they, oh, fuck you. And she was about to toast herself, and here came Britt Baker's music. And she comes down the aisleway and fights her way past 2 security guys, including super kicking one, and then rolled in and ran Mercedes out of the ring. Here is a question I want to ask you, Brian. Why do they not have female security?
Well, I guess in this time of equal rights, there's still the thought, and probably right, that a big, muscular, big, strong man is probably the best person to actually be in the role of a security guard due to what a security guard may have to do.
Well,
there aren't a lot of big female bouncers at bars with men.
Well, but now here the converse, the obverse, the reverse. Put it in rewind. The men's security guards, 285 pounds, they can't touch the Liv Morgans and the Mercedes Moans and all these small little girls on television. They can't just yank them up and fucking carry them away tucked under their arm like they could in real life. Because the networks and the company, they don't like that kind of thing. So what I'm saying is, when the girls get in a fight, they ought to send out girl security. And then we'll see how tough these girls are on either side. Wouldn't you like to see that?
I mean, it's interesting. I would like to see it because I've never seen it. So I would like to see more people get jobs. That's nice. More people there.
Because the guys out there, the guy security comes out and they either get beat up or they pull the guys apart. But the guy security comes out for the girls. They're not allowed to do anything. They just stand around waving their arms like a bunch of fucking idiots. We'll send a couple of, about a half a dozen goddamn off-duty Hooters waitresses down there. And you'll watch the ratings fucking bounce up and down.
Yeah, the only thing more ridiculous than Britt Baker taking down the 2 male security guards without flinching would have been if Adam Cole did it.
Well, that's true. They're having, and maybe
Ridiculous.
during Adam Cole's matches, they can send the girls' security down.
Ridiculous. What is
It'd
this?
be more believable. But what do you think? Wouldn't that be good to see?
I would.
Have a-
I
have
would.
six-
It would. Yes.
Wouldn't it be good to see? A lot of people don't think it'd be like it is, but it do. If those girls got in a big old fight down there and you sent about 10 or 12 more girls to pull them apart, well, there you just got something now.
How about a pervert security guard? Whenever they try to break up the girls, he cops a feel, and then finally they turn on him, and that leads to the women security guards.
I think that, well, they could milk it for 3 or 4 weeks. Every week, this same security guard keeps really getting kicked in the head or beat up by one of the girls, and come to find out they all compare notes, and he's trying to grab them with the bowling ball grip in the pull-aparts. Maybe just a thought.
On TNT or TBS, excuse me. Yes.
On TBS, they'll go for anything. All righty, well, back from the break. That's when Brandon Cutlet was in the back being beaten up by Darby Allin. And Darby beat him up, and he told Jack Perry and the Elite off and walked out. The whole thing was over with in about 30 seconds, and he's back. He can't climb the mountain, so he came back. Back from a commercial break. If you heard the commercial and you were in the kitchen making a sandwich, you wouldn't even have been back in time to see this.
Yeah,
the fight is in progress.
I didn't see it. I heard about it after the fact. I missed this.
Yeah, the fight's in progress. He hits him a couple of times. Doesn't take long to whip Cutlet's ass, as we all know. And then he's, and you, Jack Perry, and the Elite, and blah. And he's gone. That's the way they re-debuted Darby Allin. What happened to him? Was he blown up by an incendiary device?
No. He broke his foot, and then while recovering, his face was hit by a bus.
Yes, but the storyline reason was that his foot was broken because it was really broken. But they said that on TV. That's when he's been out recently, right? Because he had left to climb the mountain before that. No, that was how he left to climb the mountain.
He got hurt, so he couldn't climb the mountain.
They did the angle to hurt him and take him off TV so he could go climb the mountain. But in doing the angle, he really got hurt, so he was still off TV, but he didn't climb the mountain. Hopefully, did you climb all of that?
Well, I didn't see that, but I heard what you said. And are we done with Dynamite? Was that the end of Dynamite?
No. Oh, we got the main event. We got the main event to go. It's going to turn their fortunes around because they're really lobbying to get major corporate sponsors and a big renewal on their television deal. They actually went so far in that effort as to have one girl cut herself in the head with a razor blade and have the other girl lick the blood off of her on fucking national cable television in the United States of America at 10 o'clock on an Eastern time.
And you know what I will say too? Anyone bleeding is, something that the average person who's not a wrestling fan may be concerned with. A woman bleeding like that on TV, that's something that I think even some wrestling fans will go, that's a bit much. She's so pale and so white right now that it really looked disturbing how bloody she got.
Well, also when Maria, is it Maria or Mariah? I've gone both ways.
It's Mariah. You better watch out. She'll shoot you with that fucking thing in the mouth.
Well, fuck yeah. I'm not fucking getting anywhere near her. She's got her by the hair and she's standing over and she's licking it and she's wiping it and she's glorifying it. It looked like a goddamn Frazetta painting of a Conan fucking the Conqueror scene.
I just got a great book that Tashin did all of his artwork.
Well, and they may be looking for other lines of work. I can't believe if the network is bleeping shit in crowd chants that they really appreciated what was going on there and the visual that people were getting when they were. Can you imagine the female audience tuning in trying to find Modern Family? So it was Willow Nightingale and Maria May. We just settled this for the Owen Hart Cup. And then Mariah wins and Toni Storm celebrates with her, and then Mariah grabs the belt and clocks Toni Storm in the head, and she gets color and she's bleeding. And then again, there's Mariah taking the shoe, the high-heeled shoe, and she's potatoing her in the face with it. It looked brutal.
At one point, she hit her in the mouth, and Toni Storm moved a little bit. It looked like the mouth.
And she's like, "Hey, fuck!" But it escalated quickly, as the young folks say. But also, I'm sorry, I know in the wrestling bubble that these people live in, oh, that's a great thing. But you can't. We've just seen a documentary talking about and interviewing some television broadcasting programming executives at this very same company about what their thoughts were, pro and con, about professional wrestling. The same people may not still be in charge, but many of the same concepts that people have for television and how to brand their network still apply, not only there, but in a variety of places. Just because you change the executives doesn't mean you change the way that they think about the fundamentals of how they're building their business. And none of these people need professional wrestling. And it was just said in that program, Who Killed WCW? And remember, this is a time where the WCW telecast was drawing 3 and 4 times, still at the end, 3 and 4 times the audience that this is drawing. And the executive was like, we don't think it's upscale for what our overall programming plan is. We can't get big sponsors. They don't want to spend the money. You think, who's going to sponsor that fucking last segment? Gillette razor blades? No, I'm sorry. It's not something that networks really particularly would ask to have on their air, is women beating each other bloody, whether work or not, when it's real blood and it looked a little fucking graphic. Guys' blood sometimes used to get you in trouble with television stations. But
this was close-ups. This was Toni Storm did a great job of selling it, because it made me not want to see it. It was pretty brutal. And again, she's so pale right now that the blood really stood out, and it was a disturbing image to end the show with. They thought it was a hot angle. Again, they ended last week's show, MJF doing this to Daniel Garcia. Not with a woman's shoe, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
2 weeks in a row, they're ending the show with a big turn.
And in the middle, they just hospitalized. Oh goddamn! Who went out in the Joe went out.
Samoa Joe. Yeah.
So from a booking standpoint, this has suddenly gotten repetitive over just a couple of television shows, and from a business standpoint, holy fuck. If they're in a position where girls getting color on television will make a significant impact in their overall business enough to justify the risk of potential sponsor and television backlash, then they're in a pretty shitty spot. And if Tony called his babysitter or liaison or concierge or whoever at TBS and said, well, we're going to have blood with one of the girls in an angle, I don't know if he still told him, and we're going to have a close-up as the one girl licks the blood off her head.
At the very end, like the last thing before it cut off for me, was Toni Storm actually like spitting the blood out of her mouth.
Well, wouldn't you?
I guess so.
I'm not surprised they caught that activity. So we'll see if maybe Hormel with a nice new lunch meat for kids will sponsor next week or something.
Well, that's AEW Dynamite. We do not have the quarter-hour ratings yet, so we will time travel shortly to get there.
What is that?
All right.
Is that a parakeet fucking a fucking football over there?
You know, depending on which atmosphere you enter, you never know the sounds that'll disseminate from the time machine. We are here in the future.
Yeah, some of those sounds emanating, it sounds like you had bad fucking Taco Bell for dinner. But go ahead. Nevertheless, we're here in the future. We know things now that we didn't know then. All
right.
things are as they were then, except you are there.
And we have found out it is indeed true. Jim has a massive collection of Clara Mortensen nude photos for no good reason.
They're daguerreotypes, I'll have you know.
Really?
Instead of, yes.
Well, speaking of anything else but this, AEW Dynamite, Jim, July 10th, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the Scotiabank Saddle Dome. Not the Scotty Bank Saddle Dome, as I called it last time.
Is that what you got? I didn't correct you.
It sounded
the
right.
Scotty Bank?
It sounded right.
Well, Scotia, they had just a skosh of a crowd there.
According to WrestleTix, the final count tickets distributed 4,524. The last time they were there, for the record, was last year, July 15th, 2023. The attendance, 5,896.
Ouch. Oh, well, it's only 1,300 and some down, but it's Stampede Week. They seem to be making a tradition of this, so maybe the people are making a tradition of not coming back.
Well, we'll see if that's another holiday that affects the ratings here this week, Jim. AEW Dynamite, July 10th, according to WrestleNomics, 8 to 10:05 p.m., 691,000 viewers on average.
Okay, so weeks ago we would have said, "Oh, ha!" But now that I can't remember, but is that up from last week?
Last week was 688.
See, it's up just a skosh, just a Scotiabank. So this is about where they're at right now.
That's exactly.
They were.
Yes.
They were in the 8s, then they were in the 7s, now they've gone to the 6s.
Now, on the bright side, they're up 8% over the trailing 4-week average, which was 636, or 638,
Yeet.
Excuse me. Yeet.
Yeet.
Not allowed to say there. But, you know, that's, you kind of just hit on one of the things I keep thinking every week when we see these numbers, because we said it. It's like they settle in, and then they start losing viewers, and they gain a little bit back, and it never comes all the way back. And we'll talk later on about different things that are blamed. But let's go to the quarterly breakdown.
I'm with the all-night gas station theory, but go ahead. I can be swayed.
These are compiled by WrestleNomics, quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The recap of MJF's live promo on Collision, the Will Osprey MJF live promo, well, MJF I think was taped, but I don't know. And the Owen Hart tournament video, 819,000 viewers.
Okay, that is better than they have done the last couple of weeks, as I remember, on starting out with a bigger number. And
high point in the key demo as well.
And so, but now it looks like from their average, they may be plummeting toward a precipice at some point in the program. But continue, please, my dear fellow.
Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8. Oh, Jesus. No, you know, no.
You can't even get the time out. Oh, my God, mother of all creatures,
you know what?
Big and small.
I was doing quick math, but it actually goes with the trend line. Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page. With picture-in-picture. With picture-in-picture. 725,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay. Well, that's only 94,000 people. But did this marathon battle of the Titans, did it keep the people? Did it hook them in?
When you book a match like that on television, is that the goal, to keep who you have, to get more people in? Do you expect to lose people? What is a booker's expectation?
Essay question. In the territories, you weren't thinking about the ratings because the ratings on your local stations was probably always good. And if they weren't good, you probably weren't running that town. You wanted to as a whole, present the program where it would draw the most money to the house shows and the angles and the matches that you were going to be promoting. And if you were going to do a long match like that, Dusty did them because Eddie Graham did them. It was to showcase intermittently, not rarely, more often than that, but not regularly. Obviously, it was to showcase your best workers in a match that was better than what the fans would normally ever see on television, and build to the finish that you wanted to find. People would say, oh, wow, that fun. And they would talk about it, right? Well, now you can't get anybody to talk about a TV match just because it's long, because Lord knows we got plenty of those. And it really needs to be now more than ever with your best workers to even, keep people's attention. And the quarter hour ratings are a thing that, especially in local television or regional syndication, didn't even exist 40 years ago. But you would find that when you had Flair and Wyndham go the hour in Florida, or when you had the Midnight Fantastics go the hour on Crockett TV, or whatever the case may be, that interest appreciated at the house shows amongst those people in the rematches. So it was a completely different thing, but you didn't just do that thinking, oh, wow, a bunch of people are going to watch this match and that'll be the end of it. It was, no, you've already had people watching your wrestling show. Now you needed to get them interested in a specific thing enough to want to pay to see it.
Well, we go to quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The continuation of Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page with picture-in-picture, 722,000 viewers.
Well, at least they didn't really lose any. I mean, at that percentage, it's people that had to piss.
They kept steady. We go into quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Bryan Danielson live angle. What was the angle?
Where's my notes? Wait a minute. What?
Oh, was that just him bumping in the Swerve? Was that just him bumping in the Swerve?
Well, they didn't even bump. Swerve was walking down the...
Well, bumping in the, not the physical sense, but just, hey, I bumped into Ellen the other day.
Yeah, well, he got the cup, and then here came Swerve, and then remember, all right, when he came back, Danielson wasn't there.
Bryan Danielson leaving, a.k.a. the live angle, an ad break, Swerve Strickland's live promo, and an Owen Hart tournament video, followed by an ad break. 663,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. And remember when Swerve was just over like crazy about 3 months ago before they went to work on him?
Not on the mic. But we go now to quarter five.
Well, no, he was noted for his cunning linguist ability.
People like yelling whose house it is, but I don't know if his promos have really been there yet. And we'll see if they get there, but we'll get to quarter five, the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Right over here now. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn's rap video, followed by Samoa Joe versus Chris Jericho in a Calgary street fight with picture-in-picture. What was it?
A Stampede street fight.
A Stampede street fight, picture-in-picture. 672,000 viewers.
Ooh, looks like some people came back from taking a dump.
Now, we always say, if you have a Chris Jericho segment at the end of a quarter, it usually drives the next quarter down, let alone a match that goes from one quarter into another, you would think, right?
We have noticed that trend in previous instances.
Quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Joe versus Jericho, an ad break, the Joe hospitalization angle, and the start of Claudio versus Ishii versus Pac versus Kyle Fletcher with picture-in-picture. 632,000 viewers.
Oh, And
Also,
40,000 bite the dust.
Oh, actually not. I was going to say the low point in the key demo, it's just slightly above the low point.
Well, now that's the way Uncle Dave is going to report it. I'm going to say this was slightly above the low point. You can always talk positive. So they are down. We're back to our old pattern again. They're down 100 and what is that? They're 187,000 people from where they started from. And they haven't cracked 700,000 since 8:45 Eastern.
Well, we go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Claudio versus Ishii versus Pac versus Fletcher. Pac's live promo. Hangman Adam Page and the Elite and Renee Paquette having a backstage confrontation.
Remember, that was, I'll do it.
The Mercedes Monae Britt Baker live angle.
Oh boy.
An ad break. And Darby Allin's backstage promo, I guess that's what we'll call it. 657,000 viewers.
Good Lord, you mean they actually picked up 25,000 for that?
I think people saw Jericho turned off the channel, but they still wanted to watch wrestling. They just waited till he was off.
You may be right.
I mean, it proves that every single week. We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have an overrun. It says 3 minutes here. Willow Nightingale versus Mariah May with picture-in-picture Owen Hart Tournament Cup Final. The tournament. That could be your tournament.
Tournament Cup.
We have the Gym Tournament. Picture-in-picture ads. 640,000 viewers. 3-minute overrun with the big post-match angle with Tony Storm and Luther. 695,000 viewers.
Oh, so suddenly 55,000 people are like, where the fuck is Modern Family? And why are these women drinking each other's blood?
How many men got beaten up by women on this show this week?
Well, and again, that's not fair.
That's not why I'm saying it. I'm not saying we should have.
No, it's sexist. We ought to be able to retaliate from this epidemic of female on male violence on television, but no.
Man, Britt Baker didn't wait for that security guard to even do it. He just punched him right in the face.
No, he could have been saying, hey, I'm on your side. I'm going to let you walk right by me. Oh, whoa. Oh.
Well, those were the ratings, and a lot of people were blaming a lot of things. And as we were recording, the Meltzer Says What Twitter account had tagged you and I, and a lot of people started sending it our way. Audio, I guess, of Dave and Brian on their show.
I have not checked the twit machine here lately, so I haven't seen this, but you can fill me in now in front of everybody.
Well, I guess their point is that the biggest thing that's hurt AEW is WWE being hot. That's the single biggest cause in AEW being cool. Not the booking, not the talent, not Tony Khan, but WWE being hot. And I wanted to get your thoughts on if there's any validity to that.
It's nothing we're doing. It's just these other guys are so much better at it than we are. That's the defense by the favored nations that are on the side of the struggling secondary promotion. They're just so much better at this than we are that's why our business is down. Both of these things can be true. WWE has gotten better, and AEW has gotten worse. And you take the high road, and I'll take the low road, and, one of us is still going to end up in the shit house, and one of us is going to end up in the penthouse. So yes, WWE has gotten much better because they're doing things properly, and Vince, who was insane, is not there anymore. But meanwhile, this fucking parody program that nobody with a life could possibly study enough notes on to keep track of who the fuck is on whose side and who's mad at who and why. And then the people aren't over because most of them don't know how to get themselves over, and Tony don't know how to get anybody over.
Can I stop you there?
Yes.
We hear from people, so I want you're the expert again, explain the difference. When people say, how could you say they're not over? The people there are really into them.
Well, there's still got to be more to how many people are there. That's the problem. When you start something and gradually, year over year, fewer people come and fewer people watch, you are not doing well. And that is a cumulative effect of either losing your talent to where they'd rather go work somewhere else where there'll be bigger stars and be seen by more people, or booking the ones that were popular at some point into fucking oblivion, or in some cases, in many cases, picking the wrong people to fucking spend time on to begin with. And even though you don't get tired of those people, a lot of other people have got tired of them people.
Yeah, there are people popping for Orange Cassidy in the building, and there certainly were a few years ago, too. It's just there are less people doing it today, and it's just like it is on television. There were a bunch of people, you drove some of them away, and then you kept driving them away. There was a path where AEW could not be WWE level popular. That was never going to happen, especially this quickly, but have been more successful than they are now. While WWE was as hot, right? It's not like an automatic WWE's hot, so AEW has to lose audience share.
Well, no, because look at the Monday Night Wars. In a promotional war where if both sides can be taken somewhat seriously, whether it was nationally with WCW and WWF, or whether it was the territories with, remember, Sheik and Bruiser both did great for a while because each side is trying to bring in the best talent they can and compete with the other side. In the 80s with Vince coming into Crockett territory. Remember one night in Cincinnati, we did the Gardens, they did Riverfront Coliseum, and they sold 17,000 tickets in Cincinnati between the two shows. We outdrew them, by the way. But everybody was, it doesn't have to be that one side gets its ass kicked royally. That usually just happens when that one side sucks. Jerry Jarrett and Nick Goulas in 77. So AEW had built-in goodwill that eroded when two things happened. Number one, Vince got run off finally for good, and the WWE started getting more interesting. And two, the people started realizing that AEW behind the scenes was a goddamn circus and a fucking romper room and a shit show. And
you know, it's funny.
All these things work in different directions in different ways with different people.
It's funny as you say that, I'm thinking about it. You know, the way WWE always played the media and just fed them bullshit, whether it was the WrestleMania 3 attendance or whether it was ticket sales or reasons for moving WrestleMania 7 or over the years, so many different things. Vince McMahon, I think, said at one point he went to Harvard. So many different things that they just said to the press and the press ran with. The inside smart fan used to go crazy over that. The interesting thing is that's what's happening now with AEW and a lot of the wrestling media. You know, when it was reported last week that AEW was losing more viewers than, what was it? They were losing more viewers than the cable drop-off rate.
Yes.
AEW apparently pushed back and started sending data. I think to Brandon Thurston, he published the whole thing on WrestleNomics. So that's just an example, and that's a public one. But when all of a sudden you start seeing the narrative go to overall numbers don't count, it's all about 18 to 49. And then 18 to 49 counts, except for this week because it's 18 to 35. A lot of these narratives are coming from Tony. They're coming from AEW. And AEW is not put in check by a lot of people the way WWE always was. And rightfully so, they should have been. And they still should be. But AEW needs to be too.
Well, yeah, because, and again, at least with the WWE, there's somewhat of a publicly traded institution where they can still lie about a lot of things, but you can find out different. Back in the day, you couldn't really find out unless you dug deep. And right now, AEW's in the same. It's up to what Tony says and or what Tony's people say.
Don't believe your eyes. That's what they keep saying. Don't believe your eyes.
Well, if you had eyes like Tony, would you believe it?
God damn it.
So, right there. I don't even believe he's got them.
I don't believe how quick you came up with that. That was.
I'm just asking you.
Well.
You could send a picture to Tony Khan to Ripley, and he'd send it back and say, "I don't believe it."
Well, we'll see what Warner Networks believes, and we'll see what kind of deal Tony gets. If Tony walks away without a streaming deal, I think it's a failure. We'll see. I mean, because again, Tony Khan's now making comments this week that if he gets the right media deal, the entire investment pays off. So this is going to be a big story and a big investment.
He's a rich kid, and he can't book it all, but you know it don't matter anyway. He can rely on the old man's money. He can rely on the old man's money.
All right, well, you can rely on us to cut out quick. That's the drive-thru. Hold on. I had every intention of questions. All right.
Good Lord.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of breath. I'm like hoarse.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a lot of problems with you people. No, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do something. I know we want to get back to questions, but we do these reviews, and we actually have a lot of fun with it, too. But they run
But we
long.
talk about other things in the middle.
That's right.
And I hope that the people don't think we're getting bogged down, because we have more fun with the conversation in the middle than we do actually talking about the wrestling.
But with that said, we're going to make a concerted attempt to get more questions and more inquiries back on the show, as well as more songs in the coming weeks. But we've been recording a while. We got to record in a few days, and there's more wrestling to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the drive-thru. How do I close this thing out? We're sponsored by...
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Stephen P. News says I could say that, 877-50-STEVE. And I'll say goodnight, Gracie, on that. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!